Good evening and welcome to the May 13th, 2026 City Council Special Meeting. Thank you for joining us. Ms. Solom, please call the roll.
Councilmember Murphy,
Here.
Councilmember Watton,
Here.
Councilmember Holloway,
Here.
Councilmember Washington,
Here.
Councilmember Cotton,
Present.
Councilmember Tessman,
Present.
Councilmember Johnson.
Councilmember Johnson is online. He's waiting to be promoted. So there's an IT thing that's happening, but he is present. Yeah, he sent us a text message here. The council is all present. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Hold on, it's not the right agenda. Any discussion? Does he still have his hand up? See none. All those in favor of adopting the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. The agenda is adopted. First item on the agenda is city administrator interviews. And council, if you could just let me know, how would you like to have this timed? Do you want individual questions timed? Do you want us just to run an overall timer and you'll kind of interactively go through that? Or how would you like us to administer this? Councilmember Watton.
My preference is we give each of the candidates the same amount of time, regardless how much time it takes us to go through the questions for them to respond.
Is there any different view? Seeing no different view. What is the amount of time that we have in mind?
1 hour per candidate.
Per candidate,
Yes.
1 hour per candidate. Is that acceptable to the council?
Yes.
Seeing no disagreement, we will do that. So all right, to help us tonight, we have our Human Resources Director here, Kim Johnson. I know I could pull that out. Do you have any comments for us before we begin the interviews?
Sure. Just a little bit of information. I just want to thank you all for being here, part of this really important process. I just want to give you a little background on how we got here. We had posted for this position for 3 weeks total. We had 807 hits on the posting itself, 21 applicants. That was narrowed down to 11 phone screens, and 6 were selected to join us this week for in-person interviews. So all 6 candidates interviewed on Monday with 2 full panels. Those panels were made up of directors and some staff. And then yesterday, we had narrowed it down to 3. So the top 3 candidates interviewed with the mayor and myself, and they also were present here last night for a community meet and greet. And so those same 3 finalists are the 3 that you will meet and interview today. So I will go out and get the first one. Her name is Andrea, and I will let you all get started. Oh, and just to remember to, any discussion on the candidates will wait until the end after all 3 of them are complete.
Councilmember Cotton.
Is everybody okay with just going through and asking one question and then circling back, starting with position 1?
I'm good with that.
All right, if it's acceptable to you all, what I'll do is I'll call on the first one of you to start, and maybe we'll just start with position 1. And then as long as you guys just sort of follow through, I'll try to keep track in case we get lost and just remind you of who's next. But otherwise, you could just sort of follow each other. And for those online, I'll give you a cue when it's your turn to ask a question.
Hello, good afternoon.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. I'm Andrea.
Andrea, Rob Watton.
Rob, nice to meet you.
Nice to
Andrea.
meet you. Hi, Andrea and Brian.
Hi, Brian. Nice to meet you.
Cat Cotton, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you, sir.
Andre Tessman. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
We have two of them. Good to see you again. We have two of our council members online, Lewis Washington and Joe Johnson. So what we're going to do tonight is spend about an hour with you. The council is going to spend about an hour with you. They're going to go through a series of questions, and they'll stop when an hour is up. But let's see, they'll just sort of take turns, and when we go to the ones online, I might sort of give them the cue so they know it's their turn to ask a question. But otherwise, thank you very much for being here. The council very much appreciates it and looking forward to the time with you. And we'll let you know when you're getting close to the full hour, but otherwise, we'll go ahead and start.
Great.
Any questions for us just before we start? You all set?
I feel all set. Will I be seeing the council members who are online, or
Well, we will try to make that
is this
happen.
from beyond?
Usually when they, the way the Zoom works, usually when they speak, then their faces come up, so you
Great.
get a chance to see them.
Okay, great, thanks.
Super. All right, Councilmember Watton.
Thank you, Mayor. Would it be possible to have Andrea give us a brief opening since we do have an hour?
That-
And we'll start there and then we'll go to the questions.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's go ahead and, oh, we've started our timer. So why don't you go ahead and do that and give us a, as Councilmember Watton said, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, great. Well, good afternoon, and thank you all for being here today. I am really appreciative of this opportunity to meet you all and interview for this position. I currently serve as the Deputy City Administrator for the City of Issaquah. I've served Issaquah for 12 years altogether. I started in economic development, then went to and was the economic development manager for 5 years. Then I went to the city of Burien in economic development for a couple of years and headed up their efforts, and was recruited back to Issaquah to serve as deputy city administrator. And I've been in that role for 7 years now. As deputy, I have overseen many departments, including public works, community planning and development, finance, and I've acted in a lot of interim roles, including interim city administrator, finance director, HR, planning director, public works director, just about everything I can do without a badge. So, and so I have a lot of breadth of experience in that role, as well as depth, having been in the director's seat. So that's just a quick rundown of the past several years of my experience. I've also served the city of Kirkland. I got my MPA from the University of Washington Evans School. And I'm really excited to be here today. I think Snoqualmie is a beautiful town. It's a very special place, and really enjoyed my tour I took earlier today. A staff member, Dylan, took me on a tour to see capital projects and parks, and it's just really lovely. So I'm excited for the opportunity to be here.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Well, we're excited you're here. Would you kindly pronounce your last name?
Leonard.
Leonard. Okay, wonderful. I'm glad I asked. Well, thanks again for being here. I guess I'll lead off the questions. Why does Snoqualmie stand out for you compared to other cities that you've considered? And why this opportunity? Why is this opportunity better than waiting for a different one?
Well, I do think Snoqualmie is a beautiful, charming, and special place. I really like small towns. It's a matter of opinion whether Issaquah is a small town or not compared to Snoqualmie, maybe not so much, but others might consider it to be so. And I like the historic nature. When I've served in Issaquah on the History of Museums Board and really enjoyed that service and time. And so I like I think the character of Snoqualmie really appeals to me first and foremost. And as a public servant and somebody who really believes in local government, I like to be rooted in a place that I serve and rooted in that community. And so when I look for opportunities, different job opportunities, I look first at what kind of town is this? And is this a place that I would really like to spend most of my waking hours?
And so that's one of the reasons. And then when I look at job opportunities, I also think about what can I bring to this position? And so things that I have seen for this position is I do have a lot of breadth and depth and experience in city management. I know what it's like to work in a city that is resource constrained. Both, we have had very challenging budget seasons for the city of Issaquah that I have been in charge of as interim finance director and CFO. The 25-26 budget, for example, was substantially, it was the mayor's budget, but I was the finance director and CFO at the time, as well as the budget manager. And so I was in the weeds of creating that budget and figuring out how to balance it. And it was a very challenging budget for our city. I've also served the city of Burien, which is relatively cash poor for its size and very resource constrained, and know how to manage under those things. So I have that experience to bring. I have a depth in city finances. I understand that it's also one of the priorities for this community, economic development. I have a strong background in economic development, serving Kirkland, Burien, and Issaquah in economic development. And so I have a lot of direct experience I can bring to bear in business retention, attraction, and tourism promotion as well. And I also, so I also understand that it's one of the mayor's priorities to look at systems within the city and how to have maybe some improved processes of the ways that we do things in Snoqualmie. And so I have worked a lot with the clerk's office in Issaquah on meeting management, agenda management, things like that, to just help facilitate decision-making with council, clarify the information that we're providing the community. And so I understand a lot of systems and how the city operates, and would look forward to working with staff and also the mayor and council to figure out which kind of systems we want to improve.
Great, thank you.
Good afternoon. Andrea, here's our next question. How will you align your work with the mayor's vision? You kind of already partially touched on that, while ensuring the council remains fully informed and engaged.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, I would look forward to understanding more about what the mayor's vision is that he would like to see. I've been able to sit with him a couple of times and ask him some questions about that. So I would want to meet with the mayor on a very regular basis and have really strong communication and a good relationship with him. And then also to ensure that council remains fully informed and engaged. I really like to have regular meetings myself with city council members. And so, so I think that the city administrator, while I work at the pleasure of the mayor, the council and the administrator relationship is also very important, as I represent staff and more of the day-to-day operations of the city. And so I would like to have regular meetings with city council. I would like to be the person that you can call on a weekend if you have a concern about something you see in the community and need to be addressed. And I also like to have conversations with council the morning of a city council meeting. So it's my practice that if there's a city council meeting or a council committee meeting, perhaps, that I would make several phone calls to city council members to say, do you have questions? If you've reviewed the packet and there's something that you're concerned about, let's not surprise each other on camera. And so I would love to know what those questions are. Maybe we can answer them in advance of the council meeting. Maybe we can just make sure our staff is prepared to answer those questions on camera, and just have a better idea of where the temperature is and where the concerns might be for council, or to explain some things that maybe weren't clear in the packet that we need to address better in the presentation. So I like to have a lot of communication with council, and that's how I would want to make sure that council remains fully informed and engaged. I understand the mayor is a piece of that puzzle as well. So he and I would need to work out those communication roles with council.
Thank you very much.
All right, question number 3. How should the community trust you to represent its interests and values?
So the question is why should the community trust me to represent its interests and values? Well, that's a great question. One of the things that I look for that when I apply for a job is what are those community values? And is there some alignment with mine? That's always helpful when that happens. And so I have been doing some reading in terms of comp plan and other city documents, reviewing city council meetings, et cetera, just to see where the conversations are. For example, I understand the concerns about BESS and the concerns for public safety and wildfire. I have a keen understanding of the threats of wildfire serving Issaquah, of course, and we've done a lot of things to try to prepare the community and better manage against the threat of wildfire. So that's an example, but so the community, I think I have a pretty strong record and reputation of where I'm from, but I think that proof is going to have to be in the work that I do as the administration and as a representative of the administration and how we perform that work. So trust and integrity is very important to me and my personal values. And I would hope to demonstrate that through the work that I perform on behalf of the administration, the way that I lead the administration. And I have an open door policy. So I expect to be in the community. I want to meet community members. I think that's really important, is to have those relationships and understand what's important to people and talk to them directly, not just be kind of behind a closed door in City Hall. And so I would want to hear from community members themselves what their concerns are. I'm sure that they will hold me accountable. I'm sure they will talk to the mayor, who will also hold me accountable to those values. And I welcome that type of dialogue. I think that's really important.
Councilmember Washington, if you would like to ask the next question, I think it's your turn.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for being here today. So I'm going to ask the next question, and here it goes. So what is one change you've implemented in a previous role that had lasting positive impact on the community?
Thank you for that question. One thing I'm really proud of recently, and it's very recent, is the work that I've done on the 4-line with Sound Transit. So Issaquah, through the ST3 voter approved package, was slated to get a light rail station in 2041 originally. Then it was kind of pushed back to 2044. Sound Transit recently has announced that it has a $34.5 billion deficit in implementing that plan, which put the station at risk in Issaquah and the entire 4-line, the connection between Kirkland and Issaquah, at risk. And so a few months ago, I was told that there is no possible way that we could save that light rail line. It was the last one that's going to be built in the overall ST3 package with a almost $35 billion deficit. There's no way it's going to get built. And I was basically laughed out of rooms when I suggested that we can save it. Mayor Mullet and I have worked really hard on saving that line. We have done some unorthodox things, because this is one of those situations, kind of like BESS, where we're not in total control of that as the city of Issaquah. So Sound Transit is funding it. It's their project. We don't own the land either. A lot of that's in WashDOT right of way, and they get to make all the decisions. And so what we have done is go on a public awareness campaign, connecting people with the decision-making process in Sound Transit. And we have a group of very grassroots kind of volunteers that show up to Sound Transit board meetings because the city helped organize those efforts and connect people to their government and decision-making processes. And those people are what I call the Issa Squad. And we got them matching shirts, so they're very visible. They wear these big purple shirts, which is the color of the 4-line on all the Sound Transit maps. And we've also been working with media, trying to get op-eds out there, trying to win over the hearts and minds of the region as to why Issaquah needs a light rail station and to not count us out of the fight. And what we saw over time is many folks being part of that conversation, including us in the conversation. So we had Sound Transit board members who represent Seattle, who represent Ballard or West Seattle. We had Sound Transit board members who represent Pierce County who said, yeah, the Issaquah station is important. And so we were able to influence the conversation while also looking at what can we do to partner as a city to reduce costs of the line? How can we help fill that almost $35 billion budget gap? And we've come up with a lot of ideas that have been in the press. Those ideas have gained traction. They're now a part of the proposal that's for the board. There's going to be a Sound Transit Board meeting tomorrow, but there's one on May 28th where they will make the decision. And the good news for us that we are very excited about is that the 4-line to Issaquah is in the proposal that's going to the board. And so should that be approved, then we're keeping Issaquah on the map for a light rail station. And we see benefits of that for the entire region, not just Issaquah, as Issaquah is, as you all know, a big hub for areas that don't have as many services. And so it's part of Mayor Mullet's plan to help use that station to provide more shuttles to outlying areas like perhaps Snoqualmie, North Bend, et cetera, Maple Valley, and connect people to that light rail station in Issaquah so that those benefits really are seen beyond city borders. And so I'm really proud of that fight. It's something that I worked really hard on that strategy. That's really a project that I owned for the past 4 months and worked really hard with Mayor Mullet, who of course had a lot of meetings and a huge part of that effort. And we went from, like I said, being counted out of the fight and laughed out of rooms to now being included in the proposal. And all signs are good, though I'm not going to believe it until the vote happens. But so far, it's been really promising. And it's been such a wonderful effort to work with the community and work with the mayor to make that lasting change.
All right, thank you. Question 5. How do you effectively lead departments such as police or fire when you're not a technical expert in those fields? And I know that even in Issaquah, they don't give you a gun, do they? For this,
They do.
really great, but
I don't think anybody wants me to have a gun. I'm not the most coordinated person. No, and fortunately, I don't need one to perform my role. I'm very excited about that, as is the rest of the community. But I do rely on our subject matter experts all the time. So they're the ones that are doing the work day in, day out. They have the trainings, the certification, the education, and the experience. And so I operate with a high degree of trust for all the employees. And I ask a lot of questions. So I think there's a benefit in being not the subject matter expert, where you can come in and say, well, why do we do it that way? And what's the alternative to doing it that way? And can you just walk me through that? And so I think it's asking questions, being curious, wanting to learn more. That also helps me walk department leads, including police and fire, through different decisions and situations so they can go, well, okay, yeah, now that I say that out loud, maybe there is another way of thinking about this. And so I work with directors and staff in that way of having open conversations. I want to make sure we leverage their expertise. Certainly, I'm not a micromanager of any kind, but I do want to know. I do want to know why we're making decisions, why that's the recommendation, what are the alternatives, what are the pros and cons, and I ask a lot of questions to understand that. And I have many years of experience now in local government that has formed and shaped my judgment, so that when I hear an answer that sounds a little off, I know, okay, maybe I need to dig a little deeper on that. I don't know that makes perfect sense to me. So I rely on my judgment as well as the expertise of others.
All right, thank you. Question 6 is, describe your experience in strategic planning activities in previous leadership roles. What ensures that a plan is meaningful versus just a document that sits on the shelf?
Yes, I have led and taken part in several different strategic planning efforts. One was an economic development strategic plan, which is one of the first strategic plans made for the city of Issaquah. worked with a commission and community members to create that. Used SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis, and facilitated those conversations with our stakeholders. And also with the city wide strategic plan for the city of Issaquah. So we have a citywide strategic plan that we've also updated somewhat recently, and walking through what's the public engagement plan for a strategic plan. How do we shape and mold that to make sure that we're hearing as much as possible from the community? And then also working with council a lot. It's really important that council has a lot of buy-in for the strategic plan, because in many ways it's their strategic plan. And so making sure that the strategic plan reflects the will of council, and that it addresses the items that are of high priority for council in a way that's clear and concise and can be a tool for staff that they use to guide work plans, guide budget requests, et cetera. So how we make sure that it's meaningful instead of a document that sits on the shelf. Once the strategic plan is created, then we also worked on performance metrics and targets. So where do we want to be and how do we measure to get to that place? And then we report on those metrics on a regular basis. And so that can be an annual basis, sometimes with the city budget, or semi-annual, depends on the will of council and the mayor. And then in addition to those metrics, we look at how do we organizing our city budget around the strategic plan. So it's not just a bunch of lines on a page, the city budget. Let's make it make sense in reference to the strategic plan. How is the budget implementing on that strategic plan? We also do that. I also like to have posters up around City Hall showing here's the priorities for the strategic plan. So when we're in a meeting, we can just look over and reference the main priorities or the goal areas and go, that's part of the conversation. It's always kind of present in the room, guiding our activities. There's a lot of great ideas out there. There's a lot of things we want to do, but the strategic plan is really the document that we follow to make sure that we're on the right page and we're on the same page as council. We also make sure that part of budgeting retreats with council, anything like that, that we're bringing up the strategic plan. What's our progress on that? What are any goals or other activities related to the strategic plan that we want to implement in the next budget cycle? So a lot of reference points to make sure it doesn't just sit on a shelf.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Councilmember Johnson, I think you have the next question if you would like.
All right. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Next question is, how do you ensure decisions remain transparent and defensible in a small community where, quote unquote, everyone knows everyone?
Transparent and defensible. I think I like to start with the materials prepared for the public. And so one of the things that I did with the former Issaquah Mayor, Mary Lou Polly, was really refine staff materials. And so I worked with the clerk's office on creating templates for memos and PowerPoint presentations and agenda bills to make sure that all of the relevant information is in there so that it's very clear what the ask is from the administration to council. It's very clear what direction we're seeking. It's very clear the analysis of pros and cons as we do policy evaluations. And so we worked on those templates, which was a great tool for staff because staff was kind of having to reinvent the wheel, or staff was providing, depending on who it was, maybe it was a better memo versus another staff. You know, we hire engineers to be engineers. We don't necessarily hire them to be great writers for council materials, though some of them are. I'm not coming for our engineers, but and so we wanted to give staff the tools to be able to provide consistent, clear, and quality work. And also it was in a format that people started to get used to, whether they were commissioners, members of the public, members of council, that all the information is clear and organized. And so that's, I think, a starting point. And if there's missing information, it becomes a lot more obvious because we have a template that will kind of point that out. The other thing that I think is important is we need to be ready for these meetings. And so sometimes we'll want to rush an item, but I want to make sure that staff are prepared, that we have all the information gathered so that council can make the right decision, so that public can understand what that decision is. And that information needs to be clear and accessible on the website as well. Sometimes that means creating special project pages on the website and outside of council materials. Sometimes it means our communication in social media and how we invite members of the public into the conversation. Sometimes it depends on the level of decision and it depends on the type of issue. We may need to start having these conversations with the community way before we come to council for a decision point. And so looking at what level of engagement is appropriate for that decision. So it could be very early public involvement. It could be things like surveys. It could be community open houses if it's something we think people will come out and want to learn more about. It could mean task forces if it's something that's more technical, that we want people to be able to roll up their sleeves and really dive in. I've used task forces and facilitated really complicated conversations with our community directly through a task force, and they've been providing great recommendations through that tool. So it really depends on what the issue is, what level of complexity is, and how we involve the public, perhaps even before the decision is being made, and then making sure our communications are really clear along the way. And having as many of those touch points with public as possible to make sure that they understand why the decision is being made, what the choices are within that decision. That's really important.
All right, the next question, and it's a good one. Tell us about a situation where political pressure challenged your professional judgment.
So this one was one of the more controversial issues, I thought, that have happened in Issaquah. And it was years ago, we had a there was a proposed housing development that was going to go next to a senior living community, and that the senior living community and the area around there opposed that development. They were worried about traffic impacts and things like that. And then the school district ended up buying up that property. And at first, we all thought that that would make the neighbors happy about that. It's not going to be a housing development anymore. It's going to be a needed school. Maybe that's great. And it turns out the senior living community was not happy about a school being located there because they were worried about nighttime disturbances. They were worried about traffic. They were worried about kids kind of traipsing through their property, stadium lights late at night shining in their windows, and the marching band at 10 p.m. at night, And so they were worried about impacts from a school to their accustomed way of living in their peaceful neighborhood. And so we were trying to figure out what we could do, because the school had a right to develop certain things. And but the neighborhood was really fighting against it. They got an attorney. They were trying to figure out ways to stop this school from happening. And it was a very controversial issue because we have our members of the senior community and we have families within the school district, and they're all fighting each other. And that's not what we want to see, of course. We'd rather get on the same page. And so at the time, the mayor asked me, can we just broker an agreement? Let's get this off the cameras. Let's try to come together in one room and look each other in the eye and see each other as people and really try to understand each other. And so, I was representing the mayor in these negotiations, and they were tense at first, and everybody had their lawyers in the room and all that kind of stuff. And what what my challenge was to try to figure out how we could navigate the legal issues that were there, how we could navigate some of the cultural conflicts that were happening, and the needs and wants of kind of both of these parties. And what we ended up coming out with through a lot of very tense conversations was really more of like a good neighbor agreement. And so thinking about what are some of the things that we can ask the school district to do that's going to minimize impacts on the senior community. So can we provide a curfew so that lights are out by 9:30 p.m. so that those stadium lights are not shining in windows? Can we also apply that to marching band noise? Is there a curfew for that? Are there other things that we can do in terms of buffers, trees, fences, et cetera, that might solve some of those things from the senior community? While also allowing the school to move forward with their project, not face as many legal challenges, et cetera. And so they were very difficult conversations, and being able to kind of navigate those a little on the fly was very challenging. The project has changed over time. The needs of the school district have changed over time. It's being permitted, and it has changed a lot from those initial conversations. But it was one of those where situations where it was challenging to try to bring those parties together and come to something, but agreements were made in that time that we really felt, and the mayor really felt, reduce the impacts on the senior community while allowing the school project to move forward. And there's many that are still not happy about it, but it was one of those situations where they were allowed to do all kinds of things, the school was, but we tried to get some wins out of that conversation.
All right. Next question is, why do you think you are well suited to the challenges and breadth of responsibility in a small city? And what would you need to be successful?
I think I'm supposed to make a joke here about a magical pot of money that we find somewhere. That would be nice to be successful. That would be great. Assuming there are no magical pots of money in the couch cushions, I'll answer the first part. I think I'm well suited to the challenges and breadth of responsibility in a small city because I have performed a lot of these roles. And so I have been a director of almost every department within the city. So I know what it's like. I have that breadth that I think a lot of other candidates maybe don't necessarily have. It's unusual in my profession to run across somebody who has served as an interim director of almost every field. And so I do have that breadth while also having a depth because I've been in the chair as the department director. I've created a budget. I've created how many CIPs? Many at this point. So I know what that takes. I'm also, while Issaquah may be considered a big and well-resourced city compared to Snoqualmie, Issaquah certainly has its revenue challenges. We've had a lot of difficult budget years. I've had to make a lot of difficult decisions and say no when we can't afford things and we can't do things. I've also worked for the city of Burien, who has less revenue per capita than Snoqualmie and is not an exceptionally resourced city. Only 65 employees were with the city of Burien when I worked there, and they have a population of 51,000. And so they ran a very lean ship in Burien, and I know what that, I have experience in that. And what I like about smaller cities, and I like serving smaller cities instead of larger organizations. I've worked for King County Metro in the past. I've worked for larger cities. What I like about small cities is that you can get your hand in all kinds of things. You get to learn about a variety of things that you would not otherwise in a big city. In a big city, everybody's kind of got their specific role, and they're not as nimble. And smaller cities are really nimble. And you have staff, and I know you have staff here as I've started to meet them who wear multiple hats and like the variety that presents. And I really enjoy that. That to me is the best thing about city management, is learning all kinds of new stuff that I never thought I would learn about. So I really like that. And I think that makes me well suited. My experience and my just penchant for variety and learning new things. As I said, my experience. What would I need to be successful? I think, and I've talked with Mayor Mayhew about this, is a good understanding of roles. You know, we all have roles here, and I will need a good understanding of roles between the mayor and I, as well as council, because we all are part of, I believe, the same team. And council has a very important role. I cannot fulfill council's responsibilities. We need you to look at the budget and pass the budget. We need you in the policy level. The mayor has his role and I have mine. And so an understanding of those roles and a respect for each other's roles. Trust is also essential to success of the city as a whole as we work together as a team. And it's really important that you as council trust me and that you trust the city administration. And so I would want to do that through a lot of communication and exhibiting my integrity of following up on things that I said that I was going to do. I will do them. Not surprising each other and being really straightforward in our communications and honest with each other. So trust, I think, is also essential. And not just with council, but of course with staff and the community. And that's true for a large city or a small city, but especially in a small city where everybody does know each other. And, there's no hiding in a small city, which I think is good. That's a good thing for good governance.
Okay. What the council would like to know now is what questions do you have for them about this role, the organization, current priorities? And if you ask a question towards the council, I imagine at least one of them will respond to your question.
Great. I hope so. So I am just, I am just curious, basic question here, but it's my first time meeting you all. So I'm wondering, what are your hopes for this position? Many of you have seen a couple of city administrators come and go. So what are you hoping from the successful candidate?
Sure.
Councilmember Murphy.
I think the one thing that I think I'm looking for, just speaking for myself here, is an administrator that understands public engagement and that being a critical part of his or her responsibility. And I think we have a very engaged community. We have a sophisticated community that understands our issues, that is probably tracking what we're doing much closer now than maybe in the past. So I think being, that ambassador to the community and being someone that's comfortable, I think in those audience, with that kind of community audience, I think is interesting. And I think really important, especially given where we are now. But I think just as the role of the city administrator to be more public facing, right? And more public engaging. And I think you hit on some of that, frankly, during some of your answers, which was great. So that's my answer to that.
Councilmember Watton.
Great. Thank you again for applying and being part of this process. Bringing your local knowledge is certainly a strong attribute. And I echo Councilmember Murphy in being part in the forward-facing, community engaged director for the city. But I'm going to turn it around and ask you another question, and that is, for you, Andrea, what would the first 100 days that you'd like to see as a new city administrator?
Okay, the Uno reverse. That's what just happened here. All right. First 100 days, it sounds like a lot of time. It's not a ton of time. And so what I would really like to do is meet with as many people as possible. One of the things that I really enjoyed when I was working in economic development is that they let me out of City Hall more often. as deputy, I'm very focused on internal operations, and I miss those connections with the community. And that's what really made the job very fulfilling for me. And so, as city administrator, especially working in a new city, I've worked in Issaquah for a long time, have a lot of deep relationships there. But in a new city, I'm going to want to be more rooted to this place. And that means meeting with as many people as possible, not just all of the employees, but the community. And so I want to be out and meeting folks. One of my questions, should I be successful in this position, is after I meet with council members, one of the questions I would ask you is, who are at least three people that I should be meeting in the community? And then I talk to those people in the community and I ask them, who are three more names that, and I think that's and understand the community better as I talk to more people. So first 100 days is going to be a lot of meeting with folks as much as possible. I'm not going to eat alone for the next 100 days. Probably lots of coffee. And so I want to learn that. The other thing is, I know that you have a retreat this weekend, starting tomorrow. And so the first 100 days, I'm going to have to be well understanding of the budget. Of course, I've already read the budget, I've looked at it, but that's a little different than understanding it in context and what the forecasts are showing. So I'm going to be meeting a lot with finance staff to understand what the challenges are in the budget and what council and mayor priorities are for the budget. So that's going to be another thing for the first 100 days. There's plenty of other issues I know that I'm going to need some primers on. I think I know pretty much everything about BEST because of the wonderful communication the city has already put out. So, but I would always appreciate more information, more context. But that's really essentially the plan for the first 100 days is budget and get to meet with as many folks as possible to really better understand the community and the concerns and hopes and dreams of Snoqualmie.
Thank you.
I had time to write. So I'm kind of looking for a city administrator who, as you said, works at the pleasure of the mayor, but also understands their responsibility to the citizens. That can come in conflict and how to resolve. I do agree, public engagement. I think we've had occasions where the public engagement has not quite gone to what we would like, and that always makes it a little more difficult moving forward. I see in your resume, you discussed, again, breadth of knowledge of the city functions, departments, things, also potential issues and opportunities that might be, once you get to know the organization, how to improve or what are the risk items to avoid. I echo your statement of no surprises between city administrator, administration, and the council. Surprises don't do well. Also looking at your working relationship with the council, and past administrator did the same of more calls prior to council, just do a check-in and see what may have questions or whatnot. In past administrations, I've also had administrators reach out to me and say, hey, can we have a discussion on this? And then also looking at, thoughtful positions and decisions. We've had occasionally some shooting from the hip. And particularly with the city administrator, that'll get us crosswise when the shot goes astray and it's discovered. Having said that's a homework question, let me go find out. Great. I appreciate that. Okay. But just shooting from the hip with potentially incorrect knowledge hasn't gone well. Okay. I think that's it for me.
Councilmember Washington.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll just be really quick here. We have 8 minutes left. I really like the way you answered question number 8, because I think that's the crux of what we're talking about here. Balancing the political pressure challenges with the professional judgment. And just to kind of piggyback on what Councilmember Holloway said there, I'll just say it full blown. full and complete, always operating with full and complete integrity. That's a big deal. And hey, I know things change. This is a, fast changing business. I get it. But when you see something changing, like, inform the council and let's not be caught off guard. So I would just say, always operating with that full and complete integrity.
Councilmember Cotton.
Yes,
Sorry, Council, just so you all know, you actually have about 16 minutes left just because of when we actually started to reach your hour. So you get about 16 minutes left.
Boy.
oh, another round of questions. Um, thank you for all your thoughtful answers. And what I really liked is the fact that you have kind of worked your way through and been directors in most all the departments. So, and I think I kind of see that as part of the city administrator's role as being the Jack or Jill of all trades and, knowing how things are working and, or being able to at least provide some preliminary answers if, to council and, let the staff do the more in-depth, homework assignments that Councilmember Holloway will always give. And rightly so. Rightly so. And then also the, the communication with the community. I really like your, kind of networking ideas and, things like that as far as, getting out to the merchants meetings and, all those kinds of things. And that's so important as far as, the trust and communication. We have to work on that and bring that back to our community and so that they are feeling that they're in the loop on things and things aren't being hidden from them. And so I think that's so very important. And so those are kind of the big things. I'm glad to hear you're comfortable with a lot of issues, including budgeting and, all that, because yes, we're coming up against, as many small cities are. And especially I love the idea that, you have some probably local and regional connections in your roles in from Issaquah being there for so many years. That's really great. I love hearing that type of stuff too. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Again, thank you so much for your answers and time so far. I'd like to answer your question and then maybe pose another question to you.
Okay.
Okay. So my perspective on what I'm looking for from a city administrator is kind of multi-pronged. So bear with me. I think kind of like table stakes are literally a staff manager, a chief of staff, a people leader, right? And so, my perspective on that is if we fully take care of our city staff in all respects, they will be in a position to take care of our citizens, right? So taking care of them translates into taking care of our citizens. So that's what I mean by that full leadership, people leadership. Additionally, it means setting a clear, unambiguous tone about approachability and just a reflective bias to respond to the public, take care of their need, hear them out, versus I think the negative experience some people have with other governmental bodies, which is you go in and you're a burden to them. I never want the city of Snoqualmie to project that. Right. Okay. So that's what I mean on the management front. I think representation, whether we're talking about municipal representation at the state level, whatever, it only comes about through multiple layers of representation. So what I mean by that is this council, that's one layer. It brings a perspective based off of everyone's lived experience, their social circles, all the things they're exposed to, and so on. The mayor brings another. He was elected on a specific vision that was vetted by the voters, and so on. You too would be a part of that representation, and that kind of ties back to my first point. So that's something I'm looking forward to. And then just to build off of the comments of several of the council members, I think one of the major jobs of a public-facing city administrator, actively engaged in the public city administrator, that we're seeing with some of the current challenges in the city is having that ability to take your expertise, your depth and breadth when it comes to municipal, statutory requirements for municipalities and land use requirements, and actually translating that into something that citizens can actually digest, right? A lot of the misunderstanding happens, one, because people aren't involved in these things on a day-to-day basis until the issue comes that they care about. And then, frankly, they probably start out from a position of distrust, right? So I think a city administrator who's actively out there before these issues materialize builds that trust. And then if and when these times come, they're able to effectively communicate, hey, well, here's what we're required to do and why. And these are the options or whatever. So those are some of the things I'm looking forward. That was my answer to your question. All right. The question I would ask of you is, could you talk to the work you've done on strengthening regional partnerships? I'm thinking particularly in the Burien context, and the why on that is because Snoqualmie is unique in that we're more than a city. The valley is a broader thing, right? And so I'd love to hear what you did, and if you're in any way able to tie that to, you're able to achieve X, Y, or Z, or pursue this in spite of, fiscal constraints.
Absolutely. I would love to talk about that. So when I was in Burien, I served as the economic development manager, which was essentially a director level position in that city. And you will find more details in my resume under the Burien section. But one of the things that I did as the economic development manager for Burien was I chaired the Soundside Alliance. And the Soundside Alliance is a partnership of airport adjacent cities, SeaTac, Tukwila, Burien, Des Moines, Normandy Park, and for the purposes of economic development. And so seeing that the airport was a strength and a weakness in many ways for airport adjacent communities, trying to take advantage of all of the strengths that the airport could bring in terms of economic activity while mitigating some of those weaknesses that the airport brings. The Port of Seattle was also a part of this partnership. And so we worked together as a collaborative of these cities. There was a staff committee as well as an elected committee, so a representative from each of those cities on the elected committee. And so I led that team and looked at how can we work together to leverage instead of compete, because an economic opportunity in SeaTac can have great rippling events in Burien and likewise. And so, and using some Port of Seattle dollars, some of their programs to help with those cities. Instead of each of us going with our individual asks of the port or each of us having an uncoordinated approach, we really worked as a team of 5 cities. And one of the things that we were able to do at the time was take advantage of the Opportunity Zone program. This is now an old program, but again, it's more detailed in my resume. And we work together to combine our lists of developers, of investors, of property owners, and identify which properties would be best for this Opportunity Zone tax benefit for investment and redevelopment. So we pooled our applications and requests together. Our elected leaders were able to come together and lobby on our behalf as a region around the airport. And together we organized investor events to bring together potential investors and developers and property owners to look at what are these opportunities in each of our cities. With that, we brought successful development. I'm forgetting all the details because now this was 7 years ago. I've done a few things since then, but they're in my resume if you want to take a look. And so we were able to bring more investment to our cities by working together and pooling our list of contacts, our staff power, because we only have so much staff power between us as small and not very well resourced cities. And it was very successful. We also did the same on tourism promotion and worked with the chamber as well on tourism promotion of those Sound Side cities or South Seattle cities. And one of the things, so looking at paid media sponsorship and different coverage and taking people on tours. One of the things that we organized was a concierge tour, for example. So each one of our cities was small. We didn't have enough to do it all on our own, but together, pulled together, we had a lot for tourists to come see. And we're all pretty close and convenient to each other. And so, so the concierge tour, we took a bunch of concierge and front desk people from area hotels in and around Seattle and said, you know, if your guests are asking, what is there to do around here? Let's show you what's available. And so we took them on tours where we kind of wined and dined them and showed them our cool parks and our history amenities and just shopping areas and things like that, so that those concierge would have that experience and be able to speak to it on behalf of really us and be part of our marketing team. And so that was also a very successful program. So doing all these things together, pooling those resources, we were able to do a lot more than we could do by ourselves, especially with the idea of cooperation over competition. Cooperating together saw we were able to attract more attention, attract more investment than each of us could do on our own.
Maybe one follow-up? Is that okay?
You are short on time, so maybe let Councilmember Johnson.
Oh, yes, forgive me.
Councilmember Johnson.
Hello. Yes, I appreciate the other questions that my fellow council members have had. I wanted to also respond to the question about my expectations and hopes. And apart from those that have already been shared by other council members, I just wanted to stress my expectation of honesty and integrity. There's an old saying, if you mess up, fess up, and if you don't know, say so. And I would love to see that moving forward. In my experience, the consequences of people in government making things up on the fly or telling us what you think you want us or what you think we want to hear tend to carry greater consequences than just letting us know that you'll have to look into something or that something occurred or didn't occur that would have been better having happened differently. So that's kind of my hope for the future.
All right, Council, you're down to about 4 minutes. So do you want to take another question? Would you like some wrap-up comments from the candidate? What would you like to do now? Councilmember Watton.
This is your opportunity to wrap up. The last 4 minutes are yours. Unless there's any objection.
It's the Uno card again.
I'm really understanding Councilmember Watton's techniques here. So I guess my wrap-up comments. I've heard a lot today about trust and integrity, and it's something that actually struck me as I was doing the research and preparing for this role of thinking about, and in fact, Mayor Mayhew and I had the opportunity to talk about it yesterday. I see a lot in city materials and values of transparency, which I think is different from trust. And I think that trust these days is really in short supply, especially of governments. And I understand that Snoqualmie is no stranger to that challenge of trust of the members of the public, especially given the concerns over BESS. And so I hear you, and trust is one of the most important things and something I think about all the time. I think that it's great. We want community members coming to us and asking us to help solve their concerns, and we want them to be able to trust us that we can actually resolve their issues and improve safety and quality of life. I do that by telling the truth, even when it's hard, and having face-to-face conversations with folks, following up on what I say I'm going to do. Integrity is really important to me. My reputation is very important to me. And sustaining trust with members of the public is the first thing we must do as a government. We answer to them. So I think about my personal values and my personal ethics, and I bring those to the job. So I have found in my career that there are many times where we don't have a rule book. There's no guidebook for our decision making, what we're supposed to do. Maybe nobody's done it before. And when we're faced with those things, we have to rely on our values and make values-based decisions. And so, for example, during the pandemic, there was no guidebook, but everybody was looking to the government for what are you going to do? And how are you going to keep us safe? And how are you going to balance our freedoms? And so we had to really look at what are our own values? How are we using those to drive our decisions? And so that is what I use. When there's no law, when there's no guidebook, when there's no strategic plan or other type of guidance, it comes back to values. And it's the values of the community that the community has expressed. And it's also personal values. And trust is high among those. Communication as well. Ownership, I also heard a lot about. I think that's really important, is that when we mess up, fess up, absolutely. And that's critical to maintaining trust. So I wanted to speak a little bit about values because you don't necessarily get to those through different questions or what did you do at this time when. But I believe in values-based decision making, and I think that's really important what we do as a government, especially to sustain trust and make sure people understand why we're making the decisions we are. And we can say, well, we thought that this was the best thing for enhancing quality of life, or this is the way that we can be honest and show that we're following up on what we said we're going to do. So I think it's important to use values-based decision making and make sure that people understand what's behind the decisions that we make and why.
Well,
And
thank you. Oh, did
I
you
was
have something to add?
one more thing was
Right
just
ahead.
thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been such a pleasure over the past couple of days to meet staff and meet with you all and get to know the community a little bit better. And just even in the research of getting to know Snoqualmie to prepare me for this interview. So thank you for the opportunity. It's been a real pleasure and I just appreciate your time.
Well, on behalf of the whole council, I know they appreciate you being here and taking the time to answer their questions. So thank you very much. And believe it or not, the hour is up.
So
and
fast.
so fast. So thank you again for your time and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Um,
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Look at that.
I think we now owe Mayor Mullet something for taking all this time from his deputy city administrator.
Has he advised you that you owe him?
Sorry, say it again.
Has he advised you that you owe him?
No, he just gives me that look, which I'm interpreting as you owe me one.
How does he feel about this?
Mayor, can you hear me?
Councilmember Washington, go ahead.
Yeah, is the room clear? I mean, is there?
Well, it is, although this is being
Absolutely.
recorded. Yeah, we are in open session.
Okay, just wanted to ask a question about the questions.
Actually, you might want to hold for just a minute. I think Director Johnson is going to speak to you all about that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I apologize if I didn't remind everybody not to add any new questions. So I gave you this sheet that I just gave you has all of the questions with the additional 2 questions that were added, so they're on the end. So if you can just use your next packets, just kind of add space for those questions and just stick with these questions and please don't add any additional ones. We just need to ensure a consistent process for all of the candidates and that they're all asked the same questions. So I added these 2, totally good, but please don't add any additional ones.
Councilmember Johnson. Sorry, hold on. Councilmember Washington, did you have an additional question beyond that?
I did for Director Johnson.
Go right ahead.
So Director, no, I totally hear what you're saying. I just want to kind of throw this out there from an equity standpoint. So we're adding the 2 additional questions. Should we add those questions considering they weren't asked of the first candidate?
No, the 2 questions that she has added are the 2 additional questions that were asked of this candidate.
Okay,
So,
okay. So
yeah, and
that
so
then that would have been a question that came from Councilmember Watton, and the subsequent question that came from, I believe, Councilmember Testman.
Testament,
Correct.
yeah.
Okay, okay. We're on the same
Correct.
page.
And so the key here is,
No follow-up questions. Got it.
well, a follow-up clarifying question is
Yeah.
that's fine. It's just no
No
new
additional.
question that
Yeah,
goes
no
in a different
additional.
direction. And the issue being that because you now will be moving on to 2 additional candidates, you don't have a chance to ask any new question back to the candidate that's already left. So therefore, that's why she's not Councilmember Johnson, but Director Johnson is saying you can't add any new questions from this point forward. Councilmember Cotton.
So, Director Johnson, from previous interviews we've done, you had commented that we can do follow-up questions, but are you just talking then brief clarification versus having them elaborate on an answer?
You can definitely have them elaborate on a question. You can ask, the questions such as, what do you mean by that? Or can you explain a little bit more about that? Like those types of questions. The 2 questions that were added though, were completely 2 new, brand new questions.
Okay.
So that's the difference between, clarifying questions, and a follow-up question, to their answer. You certainly can add, that as long as you're not creating a whole new question.
Okay.
It's just really making sure that we're consistent and giving every applicant, an equal opportunity to answer the same questions.
I
Yes, go ahead.
understand that, but I was just wondering, because it almost seemed to me that these were a little bit of a follow-up to tell us more type of a thing, but so I just, I was kind of wondering the difference between the 2 type of situations.
Yeah, and I would suggest any candidate's answer, even if you didn't ask the original question, if there is something that you want them to elaborate more on, then I would say you could ask them that, tell us a little bit more about that. It's just being careful not to lead them into a better answer.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And then Councilmember Johnson.
There we go. I'm still having device issues, but it seems like I'm okay at the moment. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay. Yes. I have something that I have to be taking care of. That means that I won't be able to respond, but I will absolutely be listening for about the next 20 minutes.
Okay.
Right.
Director Johnson.
And Councilmember Washington and Johnson, I did email these questions to you, so you do have the updated list that I handed out to the other council members here.
Yes, I have that.
Yeah, I received them. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Council, do you need a 5-minute break before we start, or all right, why don't we take a 5-minute break, come back in about 5 minutes, and we'll start from there. Councilmember Johnson, I'm going to assume you are there. Councilmember Washington, are you back?
Yes, I am.
Okay, then are we all set, folks? Okay.
Own city source water.
Yes, I am.
Hi there.
Rob Watton. Nice to meet you.
Brown always.
Hi, Cat Cotton. How are you?
Andre Testament. Likewise. Speech. Welcome back.
Wonderful.
All right. Did you bring that water with you or did we manage to give it to you?
Yep. Complimentary of you.
There you go. So feel free to take a drink of water anytime.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for being here with us. The council's going to spend about an hour with you. Well, actually exactly an hour with you. We'll keep track of the time. They've got a set of questions and they're going to each go through questions successively, one after the other. We've got two of the council members who are attending by video, by Zoom. You'll see their faces when it's their turn to ask a question, I think. Although one of the council members is listening only for at least most of the meeting, maybe some of the end he'll be able to ask you something as well. So we'll see how that goes.
Thank you.
We'll let you know, we'll let everyone know when you're getting down to less time, but the council's looking forward to spending an hour with you and welcome. So with that, I think if you'd like to spend a few minutes just giving an opening statement, maybe talk about who you are and your background, that would probably help them.
Yes, absolutely. As I said, my name is Rebecca Horner. I have a 26+ year history in public sector in 3 different states, 6 different jurisdictions. So I have a lot of experience in different enabling authorities, entitlement, a lot of different boards and forms of government and councils, and experience with a variety of different local government issues. I grew up in this area, and Snoqualmie is extraordinary. And I was very frequently one of your 2.5 million visitors over the course of my lifetime. So when I learned of the opportunity, I knew that was something I should explore. I have a background and education in urban planning and policymaking, and most recently graduate studies in public administration from the University of Washington. I identified some additional skill building I wanted to do relative to executive management. Prior to my current role, I was in executive management in Virginia, DC metropolitan area, which I think gave me a lot of exposure to issues that you are faced with here and provide me with a good base of knowledge and experience to help support you through that. So I look forward to hearing the questions tonight, and I have a couple at the end if I can ask you to see if we're a good fit for each other.
All right, thank you very much. We'll start the first question with Councilmember Murphy.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Horner. Really pleased you're here with us this afternoon. So I'll lead off. Why does Snoqualmie stand out for you compared to other cities you've considered? And why is this opportunity better than waiting for a different one?
Sure. I guess I spoke to that a little bit already, but as I mentioned, I did grow up on the east side, and it really imprinted on me. My parents moved around a little bit, but I knew I would come back to this area. And I have worked in a variety of sizes of jurisdictions. I really appreciate a jurisdiction that is smaller. And I appreciate a jurisdiction that has a lot of variety to it. And I believe Snoqualmie has all of those qualities. It also has a good mix of challenges and opportunities that I'm well suited to support and would like to be able to provide meaningful support and impact to a community. And given that I live just down the road, it was a natural fit when I heard about it. So I very much drawn to Snoqualmie for all that it is as a community and a natural, beautiful place, and also some of the challenges and opportunities you have. They are very exciting for me, and hopefully we can partner together to help solve problems and realize opportunities.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Good evening.
Mhm.
The next question is, how will you align your work with the mayor's vision while ensuring the council remains fully informed and engaged?
I think that's critical. And as I mentioned, I was in executive management in the DC metropolitan area with a council that changed, a board technically, that changed over my 10-year tenure at that locality. And they were not always aligned. So we found as an executive management team real meaningful impact in a good strategic framework. So working very closely with the council members to understand the priorities. And at the board, it was a chair in that prior jurisdiction to understand the chair and the council's priorities, to align them and work with the community and engage to understand the needs and share that knowledge, but in a very transparent way. And I myself professionally I'm a creative problem solver. So I love to ensure, and this is why I'm very dedicated to public service as a whole. I like to find solutions and provide everybody the opportunity to have a path forward, whether it may or may not be the ultimate path forward that's selected by the elected body. At least everybody had the opportunity to know how they could advance their ideas. But at the end of the day, there needs to be a majority decision on what those priorities are going to be. And we as an operational body will align our policies and procedures to meet them. In my past, we've had misalignment between policies and procedures and strategic priorities. And that's an opportunity to revisit the policies and procedures and ensure that everybody is working from the same operating rules and toward the same goals and visions.
All right, I'll ask question number 3. Why should the community trust you to represent its interests and values?
Well, like I said, I have spent 26 plus years in public service because I'm dedicated to helping people navigate through a public process. And I will spend, and always spend, a tremendous amount of time in the public with the stakeholders to understand it's a continuous process. I like to get to know the public and all of the stakeholders internally and externally, including the elected officials, as well as I possibly can. So I would say, I would hope they would trust me because they would see me and they would be talking to me and we would be engaging on a variety of discussions. And, I would be ensuring that we're providing level of services as expected, that we ensure the level of service keeps pace with growth, that we don't allow growth to outpace the services we deliver. And I'm very open. I love talking to people. So if somebody has a concern or issue, I build trust through those relationships and follow up and follow through. I never let an issue fall to the wayside. I always follow up to make sure things have been resolved. And like I said, I'm very transparent about that everybody has a role to play in the process and what those procedures are, and help people advocate for themselves through the process, but recognize that at the end of the day, there's a decision that must be made. And it may be different than the one they desire, but at least it's an open, transparent process and they understand the ingredients that went into the decision.
Right. Councilmember Washington, I think you are the next question.
Yes. Okay, I have the 4th question, and it reads, What is one change you've implemented in a previous role that had lasting positive impact on the community?
Thank you. I think the one I'm most drawn to share is the most recent one that I have been able to implement, and that is in my current role. When I joined Bellevue, there were a number of challenges that I was tasked with addressing, which included addressing trust with stakeholders, which includes the community. I'm responsible for the land use code amendments and the implementation of state mandates, some of which were not popular with many stakeholders, but also addressing permitting timelines and trust and transparency and improving customer service with our customers, our stakeholders, our development community members. And I spent 30 plus days really learning from internal and external stakeholders, and identified that there was a bit of a disconnect between the engagement that we had with different stakeholder groups. They never were in a room together, so they didn't understand each other's priorities and how they might conflict or align with other stakeholders' priorities. But it created a bit of an issue for our own team to be able to prioritize because there were competing stakeholder priorities. So I presented the idea of creating a stakeholder committee, an open public stakeholder committee that a customer applicant could attend, or a neighbor, a homeowner could attend. There would be no exclusion to anybody who wanted to attend these meetings. It's the Bellevue Development Committee, the BDC. And through the implementation of that, which occurred, I joined in May of 2023. It was implemented. The first meeting was in September of 2023, so very quickly. We quickly built a tremendous amount of trust and respect with the development stakeholder community. They sent in many emails, spoke at numerous times at council meetings. And we also started to have neighborhood association members attend. There's one story in particular I like to share. Holland Properties had actively developed in Bellevue for many years, and the representative told me early 2024 and late 2023, that the board of directors had decided they were not going to do business in Bellevue anymore. They couldn't trust the process. It took too long. They felt it was not transparent. There was not collaboration. It was too expensive, and it was too costly for them. Likewise, there was a neighborhood member who was very active her entire life. 60 plus years has lived in Bellevue, very distrustful of City Hall, did not trust the staff in my department. The code amendment, she felt that it was predetermined, that engagement wasn't meaningful. And she started to attend the Bellevue Development Committee meetings, as did a few other HOA members. She is now one of the biggest proponents of City Hall, and she speaks to many neighbors about her renewed trust in City Hall. And Holland Properties now, I think, has 2 properties under development. So I think that is a very lasting impact that, I mean, it's not just me, there's a team of people who made that happen. And I appreciate all of them very much, but I think that will have a lasting impact for many years to come. And there were a lot of fears by many people about what might happen in the process of having an open public forum like that, none of which occurred. It's been a very smooth process, and we've only received positive feedback. And we do frequently take surveys to understand, are we hitting the mark? Are we moving the needle? And I'll tell you the result, which we just reported to the council in February of this year. I was able to share with the council. We've had processed the most amount of permits that we ever had, despite a projected 70% reduction in revenue. 18,000 permits processed, and permit timelines have reduced. some very dramatically. So real impacts from the collaboration with our stakeholders, both development stakeholders and neighborhood stakeholders.
Thank you. So question number 5, how do you effectively lead departments such as police and fire when you are not a technical expert in those fields?
Thank you. I appreciate that I don't know everything, and I really don't want to know everything. And I actually think not being a technical expert helps prevent me from being a micromanager. You know, I have to rely on expertise from people. So making sure that we have a team of people, of professionals, I like to say the senior leadership team, who have trust and respect for each other and have psychological safety and can have good open conversations to achieve really successful outcomes is the best way to be able to understand what the needs are and how I, as an administrator, can support those needs, and admit that I really don't want to be the technical expert, but what I do know is how to ask questions. I know how to ask the right questions. I know that who I need to talk to, and if I don't know everybody, I like to ask, is there anybody else I need to talk to? So I know the right questions to ask to get the information I need in order to ask the right questions to get to the solutions we need to. And I'm also very open to acknowledging that I don't know everything and input. I really like to get a diverse team together and say, it doesn't really matter what your title is. You all have something to contribute. And that's been a really great way to get fantastic input from a variety of people that you wouldn't necessarily expect. So I would just say, showing leaders of any kind that I trust them, that I respect them, and that I will support them has been a very successful way for me to gain the respect and trust of people who lead divisions and departments that I may not be a technical expert in. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Next question is, please describe your experience in strategic planning activities and previous leadership roles. What ensures that a plan is meaningful versus just a document that sits on the shelf?
I appreciate that. And when I met with the mayor yesterday, we talked a little bit about strategic planning as well. As I mentioned, I've worked in 6 different local jurisdictions, and in several of them, I have been part of the strategic leadership in completing strategic plans. And I do think, as I mentioned, a strategic framework is critical to understanding how we align our operations to the strategic goals of the elected body. So I do think strategic plans are important. They need to be done correctly. And there's a variety of different ways to do that. And I think it's unique to each jurisdiction. So I don't think there's one size fits all strategic planning that you could apply to any jurisdiction. So I think it's a matter of understanding the needs of Snoqualmie and ensuring that the strategic process reflects the values of this community. And to name a few, so in Northern Virginia and Prince William County, I, as an executive, went through 2 strategic planning efforts. They looked a little different from each other because our board changed, and so the values changed. But we had engagement on a committee, a public citizen resident committee that helped work alongside and collaborate with the staff to develop the strategic target areas. They were short-term and measured annually. So to answer the question specifically about how do you make sure it's not just going to sit on a shelf, the important part, what I have seen success in, is having very specific strategic goals that are measurable and reporting on them annually. So you can show the value and of how you align your budget, obviously, to the strategic goals. So you can show how you're moving the needle with every tax dollar you have. And so two successful strategic planning efforts in Virginia, and I just completed one in Prince William County. I'm sorry, in Bellevue. And so when I came to Bellevue, their strategic plan had been about 10 years overdue. It was definitely due. I had asked the team, can anybody recite the vision? Nobody could recite the vision statement because it was 2 paragraphs long. So I said, well, this is a great opportunity. So the senior leadership team and myself, we redeveloped the entire vision. It's now building the best Bellevue together, which every single person knows. And so the other part that I would say to your question, ensuring, and it took us a little over a year to complete the process in Bellevue, and every minute of that year was important because near the end, I never before, to my knowledge, had the city engaged every person, 190 person department, which can be hard to reach that many people. But we had an engagement together in person where every person got involved with the draft strategic goals and initiatives and how they align to the vision and mission. And they gave hundreds of points of feedback, which we put into a spreadsheet. And I promised we would address every single one of them. Even if it wasn't something that I had control over, I would let them know that I'd passed it on to somebody who had a decision-making role in that process. Some were bargaining related, so that was a bargaining unit issue. Some were, more of an enterprise decision or policy. But building trust to show the entire team, we heard your feedback. This is how it has been addressed in one way or the other. But at the very end, I asked the management team, which is one layer down from the senior leadership team, if every single person in their team, their variety of 35 teams, could see how their daily work connected through this entire strategic plan. And the answer immediately was no. I said, we will not adopt the strategic plan until they can. So it took us a little bit longer. But once they said, yes, we know how we connect, that was when we adopted the strategic plan. So I think between annual reporting and ensuring that every person understands how their work connects to throughout the entire strategic plan is how you ensure there'll be meaningful progress.
Thank you. Let's see, we'll go around to Councilmember Murphy.
All right. How do you ensure decisions remain transparent and defensible in a small community where, quote unquote, everyone knows everyone?
Well, I think, and I have worked in, like I said, a variety of different sized communities and know this very well. The way to ensure is transparency. So transparency is the answer. And I've worked in different jurisdictions where there's been different levels of transparency, and there can be a bit of an uncomfortable transition when you do start talking about things very openly. But like I said, I'm very dedicated to public service. I want to make sure everybody has the same information and how decisions are being made. Because, many people will not interact with city government that frequently in their lifetime, and their home is their largest investment usually. And so it's very personal to people, and that I take very seriously. So transparency to me is talking about the processes, showing them in a variety. People learn in different ways. One thing, when I came to Bellevue, they didn't know me. I would talk about my leadership philosophy, but I kept hearing the question from some people, and I said, well, this is the way I'm trying to communicate it isn't effective enough for everybody. I need to find another way to communicate it. So I started using other ways of communicating it. And I quite literally have it posted on my wall of my office. So, and people walk by and it was like, okay, we know what she stands for. We know what her core values are, her leadership philosophy. I have some quotable quotes on there, some tidbits about me personally, but I think understanding that people receive information in different ways, communicating it in different ways, and being consistent. And also the baseline is ensuring that you're compliant with law. So understanding the law and being clear about what we have authority over and what we don't have authority over. And I mentioned in a prior discussion, sometimes the value that we can add is just communicating, even if we can't affect the outcome, helping people understand how they can engage effectively in a process is a good way to show value.
All right. Question number 8. Tell us about a situation where political pressure challenged your professional judgment.
Mhm.
Never happens in planning.
Never. Yeah, and I am AICP, which is an ethical certification, actually, American Institute of Certified Planners. I take integrity very seriously, and Prince William County, and I always forget to share this with people who don't live in Virginia. In Virginia, cities and counties don't overlap. So counties are actually the municipal bodies. So in Prince William County, which was adjacent to Loudoun County, where Ashburn is located, it's the second largest concentration of data centers in the world. And that's when I mentioned, I've dealt with a variety of very controversial issues in my career, and data centers are one of them. And also the ancillary issues that come with data centers, like major power lines, transmission lines, distribution lines, power facilities, of which I know you're addressing. And there were, like I mentioned, the board was very divided on their opinion. Data centers bring a lot of revenue, tremendous amount of revenue in the tax structure that exists. So there's a lot of desire to deliver services, and one way is to generate additional revenue. There was a lot of the community who didn't feel that it was appropriate to have data centers in certain areas. 52% of the land area in Prince William County is in a rural reserve. And so some of the data centers were encroaching into the rural reserve. There was a point in time where one of the board members had asked me to amend my presentation on an item to include slides that they wanted to have presented. And thankfully, I was working in a very supportive executive, because I was an executive at this point, executive structure, but I did not do that. It did expend some political capital, but I did share with that board member how they could introduce those slides themselves. If they wanted to ask questions during the hearing, certainly I would answer those questions. If she wanted to surface some of those areas, but that was definitely a very intense time. And it did cost some political capital, but given the need for public trust, and I think with every decade, public trust gets a little more tentative in local government, I think it's that much more important to ensure that the processes and that we go through are very transparent and have high integrity.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Get that. Not up here. All right. Not that one. Rick. We're real number 9.
Number 9.
I'm
is
sorry.
yours. That's okay.
I
I'll
was
keep you on
taking notes.
task
I
here.
don't know why. Why do you think we are well suited to the challenges and breadth of responsibility in a small city? And what would you need to be successful?
Thank you. As I mentioned, I've had a lot of different experiences in both small and large communities. I have mentioned this in some prior discussions this week. At the end of the day, the issues are very similar, regardless of the size of the community. I think the smaller the community, the better opportunity I would have to get to know people better. It is sometimes hard to get to know. Prince William County, I had 5,000 employees. It was very hard to get to know 5,000 employees. But so I think given my experiences, particularly related to some of the very controversial and complex issues that I dealt with in the DC metropolitan area, I definitely have experience. And I had mentioned also yesterday, part of the process that the board had requested executive management to do is to get involved in some lobbying at the state level relative to, and work with the power company relative to a mitigation and a better outcome for the power lines and the ultimate result of the power line issue that we were dealing with. prior to 2020 was the Dominion Power undergrounded the power lines for the first time ever. So a significant transmission line was undergrounded in the process. And there were some other very political issues that some legislation and laws that changed the way that local jurisdictions could mitigate impacts. And so I played a role in solving those critical issues, testifying at the legislature. So I think I'm also well suited to serve and support in any way the council would like me to. I have experience doing it. I can advocate very strongly on behalf of a jurisdiction if that is the requested role for me. I'm not afraid of doing that. And I just think given the many different jurisdictions I've worked in and different enabling authorities, I have a lot of creative ideas. I've seen things done in a lot of different ways and can ask the questions to see if that's something that could apply here locally. And I do really appreciate just the history of growing up in this area. So I think I do know a little bit about the area, and I'm not completely foreign to this area, and I've spent the last few years really getting to know the culture as I've boomeranged back to the area. So I think given my experience and the skills I have, I think I'm well suited to handle and support the issues that you have here. And to be successful, I say this in any role, trust and support from the elected body, communication. I can't know what I don't know. So please, I would like to know, please share information that could be helpful. And let's work together and collaborate.
All right, Councilmember Washington, I think you have the next question.
Okay, next question. Tell us what you'd like to have your first 100 days look like.
Okay. Yes, so I would love to spend the first third of that time frame, and probably more. It's really an ongoing thing, but spend time with everybody to get to know what's the institutional knowledge, who are the stakeholders, what is the history, what do I need to know, who likes to be engaged and how. So really deep learning about the different stakeholders and the council, understanding the priorities, where there had been challenges in the past, where there are opportunities. So I would spend the first third of that really deep learning and spending time with everyone I can possibly spend time with. I would say the second third of that I would spend creative problem solving with the different teams I'm working with. So that would include the elected team, but also the senior leadership team operationally. And through that, in the last third of that, to really focus on a work plan to address or to prioritize what we're working on or what has surfaced in that, how does that fit into the existing work plan? Are there things that need to be prioritized? I understand if there's a discussion on a strategic plan or a strategic framework, I would love for that to happen in the first 100 days, at least a plan forward to do that, because I do think that is going to be really critical to alignment. So that's what I would like my first 100 days to look like.
Great. The next question, can you please talk to the work you've done to foster intercity partnerships in spite of fiscal constraints?
Yes. I really like the way that we had our budget structure in Prince William County. We actually had functional departments divided into functional areas. So you'd have a community development team and internal services team, external services, public safety. And together, those teams would collaborate and prioritize their initiatives. So it allowed the directors to work together to identify what were must do's, what were like to do's, need to do's, have to do's, and then prioritize them. So that would come to executive management already prioritized by the director team. And so I would encourage, I don't know, I'm not intimately familiar with the process here, but I would love to look at the process and how we make decisions about how money is dispersed throughout the team and how we are working on, you know, what's our level of service. Is everything that is every dollar we're spending aligned to the strategic framework and the outcomes we're trying to achieve, and focus on outcomes, and then ask the team to work together collaboratively to determine how we achieve the outcomes, and then work together collaboratively to help prioritize how they should be funded. And that is a strategic method that was very successful in Prince William County. I participated in it not only as a director when I was a director at Prince William County, but also in the executive management.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Is it me or are we going to ask the 12th question? Mayor Mayhew.
You asked it last time.
Sorry.
Okay. So the council wants to give a little time to hear from you. What questions you might have for them about the role, the organization, or current priorities.
Thank you. So I have a couple. I don't know how much time we have.
You have about 25 minutes left, but if each of them answers, you might find that
Right.
that a lot of time goes by on each
Yes.
question.
I think the first question I would like to ask is, what are the most important issues you would like the next administrator to help move forward?
Councilmember Murphy.
Sure, I'll start. I think two come to mind, one more kind of policy focused and one more kind of approach or substantive. So I think policy focused, looking at how our city planning can move beyond and our zoning moves beyond up on Snoqualmie Ridge into a environment and place that looks at, does this represent our values today? So we have some work to do with respect to our comprehensive plan and our affordable housing goals, and how are we making room for some of these priorities within our city. So I think looking at that, and I think some of your background certainly speaks to that, which is great. I think from a more stylistic and like approach standpoint, it's important that we have senior city staff be very accessible to the public, be public facing, be out there kind of getting to know our community organizations, our residents. And I think that's something that they probably expect. So having someone who feels comfortable kind of engaging the public and being that kind of public facing administrator would be something that I'm looking for.
Thank you.
Am I next?
If you like, Councilmember Watton.
Thank you. Thanks again for applying and being part of this process. To me, some of the big issues are around Growth Management Act. How do we address the state's objectives while making sure that it is a balanced approach that reflects the values of the community, and also the constraints that we have, the lack of water, the lack of available land to meet the targets the state has set. And the reality is that 80% of our workforce do not live here. They have to commute in. So transportation and services, especially for those that are below this, the 80% area median income, if we were to develop what the state wants and Puget Sound Regional Council we simply don't have the resources to meet what the needs are. So I think those are some things where we need a strong leadership voice brought to Olympia as well as Puget Sound Regional Council to make sure that we do the things in the spirit of Growth Management Act, but also we need to do it in a practical approach as well.
Thank you.
So ideally, we're kind of a moment of transition. New mayor, there have been organizational changes and everything else. So I'm looking for a city administrator to come in and kind of grab the ship, get it chugging along in the right direction and at speed. All right, so that's one. The other one, you're already aware of the best facilities and near term hot issue. And in terms of regional partnerships or potential partnerships, we've had multiple discussions about a community pool. It's been a source of some conflict and trials and whatever, and love to see some activity in there to at least get a reasonable conversation going versus us them. And I agree with everything else they said.
Any others?
Councilmember Washington?
Did he raise
Yeah.
his hand? Oh, Councilmember Washington, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just make a few comments. Thank you so much for being here, sitting through this lengthy process. I think I would say start with just starting with the operational effectiveness, like a solid leader to come in and, truly be, that I guess I would call it almost the general manager of the city. But, or I would say in addition to that, I just think the activity and the challenges that we're seeing at the federal level and also the state level, we really are trying to lean in more to our partnerships, not just on a regional level, but also here in the valley, and really getting up to speed with those partners. Obviously the Snoqualmie tribe, Reclaim, just to name a few. I think that is going to be extremely important for the next leader that takes the helm. So I would say, yeah, just really getting up to speed as quickly as possible with our community partners.
Thank you.
Yes, certainly with all the topics, hot or not, that, have been brought up, I agree wholeheartedly with that. And I think at this stage of the game, really working on communication and establishing relationships, not only with city staff, council, the community, and stakeholders, residents, and getting the trust reestablished, transparency, and keeping an open door type of policy, and not being afraid to get out and talk to people and meet them where they live and work and play sometimes around here. I just want to see a city administrator who's involved and not afraid to face the hard issues and and be approachable by everybody. So thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I would definitely echo basically all of the comments that the other council members have made. I said this in the previous interview, but something that we need from a city administrator going forward is an ability to take your subject matter expertise when it comes to statutory requirements for municipalities and land use requirements and all that. Being able to take that and couple it with active, regular engagement with the community, but then, building off of that to be able to speak the language of our citizens, right? Which is in plain English. Hey, this is why X project could happen or, is not allowed to happen. Here's why. Here are the actions you can take as an engaged citizen just speaking their language so that they don't feel like stuff happens in this building to them, right? We need to get away from that. And so it's a trust building is what we're looking for. Outside of that, I think strategically, the thing I'm looking for is just economic development in general. I think Snoqualmie's challenge is, we're between Issaquah and North Bend, so we're a place that people live, a place that people visit because of our history. But those dollars don't stay here, and we need it for our not to compete for competition's sake, but for our fiscal sustainability. So that's a focus. And then I'd wrap it all up by just saying throughout it all, remaining anchored in our values and what that translates into is maintaining, if not improving, the quality of life for our residents, right? And I think that touches on a whole host of issues, but maintaining that quality of life is what I'm looking for. Anything that advances that.
Thank you.
All right. Do you have any other questions?
I I think I can jump in
You're
finally.
with us, Councilmember Johnson.
I hope so. My tech issues have been something else tonight, but I have been able to listen in, and thank you for your time. Can you all hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to add, on top of everything that everyone else has said, that I agree with, the strengthening our community partnerships, that be potentially with the tribes, school district, North Bend, the Sideview Parks District, and the list goes on. That's a pretty high priority for me. I'm interested, as I say quite often on the council, what is it that we need to do now so that 20 years from now, people aren't saying, man, I wish they'd have done that then, so that by now all the things would be in place that we could have done and that we know that we need to do now in order for that to occur. So kind of that forward-looking vision, and it doesn't mean that we ignore the needs of today. Obviously, we need to take care of those, but kind of that forward-looking I guess mindset is something that I'm looking for. And then the last thing is the financial sustainability. I very much believe that our residents have an expectation of quality of the and quantity of services that we're able to provide. There are some that we don't provide that they probably wish that we did. But regardless, we need to be financially and fiscally sustainable. Sometimes the term fiscally conservative gets used, which I always kind of interpret to mean like cutting back for the sake of cutting back. I don't think that we need to do that, and I don't believe that that's always the best path. There are a lot of needs that our residents have that really we're the only ones who are in a position to provide that, but we have to do so in a way that's sustainable. We can't just spend and spend and spend until we've run out of money, and we are facing some significant problems in the near future with regard to our budget. So those would be my main priorities.
Thank you.
Right. We have time for another question.
Okay. What qualities have made the previous administrator successful, and what challenges have made the role difficult for them in the past?
Yeah, so I admittedly didn't have a ton of I'm pretty new on council, didn't have a ton of overlap with the previous administrator, but I'll just kind of give some general thoughts. I did appreciate the regular communication and the check-in with council to kind of keep us up to speed, or also solicit feedback in terms of what were some of the issues that were on our minds, that we could perhaps ensure that staff are very well prepared for the meetings and that questions are anticipated, and we get the most out of those conversations. So I think those are really important in terms of building that relationship between administrator and council, so that like we are focused on the right things and that staff is prepared and all of these things. I think that's really important. I think the other thing I'll cover off on is ensuring that we have good visibility into like the operational metrics of the city. I think that is something that I think we could stand to have better line of sight into right now. And I know this is perhaps done in the past, or maybe it fell off, but I think looking at ways in which we can take that and have that visibility for our residents so they understand like what the city is delivering against, so that we are transparent. I know we've definitely taken some steps on that front, but so that the city knows and sees its government working for them, right? So I think some of that, and we have a community and a residents that are getting more engaged, paying more attention to what we're doing. I think that's a good thing. So I think providing them with that information and those metrics is important.
I think for me, we are a small town, and small towns expect our city administrator to be forward facing, out in the community, part of, be it a Rotary or Kiwanis, but having that ear to the community and being able to be very open and approachable. I think those have been kind of the hallmarks of really outstanding city administrators.
Thanks.
I think I've been through 4 city administrators. One of those was here for quite some time. So one, engagement. I've seen it work well with where the city administrator is partnering with the mayor and working together on mayor's vision and what's best for the city. I've also seen it where that comes into there's another one of the responsibility is not necessarily is partially to the mayor, but is also more to the citizens of the city. And I've seen that get in conflict. And my opinion, lost one to the city administrator because of that. Engagement with all those organizations we talked about in other cities and other entities. And I'll the other one was engagement across the organization. We've at least had one occasion where department culture got sideways enough, and City Hall was unaware that it became a situation. And that shouldn't, the city administrator should be engaged in those organizations and know what's going on, as well as trying to run the city in general. Big ticket job. That's it for me.
Councilmember Washington, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I'll make a quick comment. So in working with previous city administrators, I would say the communication has been effective, the one-on-one communication, the interpersonal communication. So for example, being able to pick up the phone and having a question and getting a response to that question, that's always been really great. Again, I think an area of growth for us, a development area, is just that. And hey, look, the city gets busy, things happen. Like I think Council Member Cotton said, hot or not, things just bubble up, and some things get lost in translation. But I would lean back again on that, the ability to work with our partners and keeping the communication door open with the broader community, and also with our community partners, and just making sure that that is first and foremost.
Thank you.
So all the other council members have made some really great points there, and I think the strong point of that I saw in my limited experience with one city administrator was the access that was allowed to not only the city administrator, but to by council to and also to like department heads and city staff and such. Also, being a staff advocate, knowing what's going on in the departments, as was previously alluded to, not micromanaging, but letting the staff do their jobs without the constant oversight of administration. And then, having them either report if there's a problem that they're having, or, let staff take some, accountability for those types of things. The engagement, always important, whether, again, I know this has been touched on, whether it be by, with staff members, whether it be with stakeholders, partners that the city has, and keeping those open lines of communication and being transparent about, the things that are going on. And, I think that would make a huge inroad on some successful relationships.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have enough personal experience to thoughtfully answer your question, so I won't opine.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Johnson.
Yeah, two things. First, I think that we've had great successes when the city administrator, on occasion, at some sort of cadence, gets out of the office a little bit to go visit with the various departments in person. It's Parks and Public Works, that could be police, could be fire, just to see what's actually happening in person. Of course, you can't be everywhere all the time, and there's plenty of stuff to actually do in the office, but just kind of keep a pulse of what's going on, and to just note things like, if there's a whiteboard that seems to be full of a bunch of stuff that's not really like the main whiteboard that's in department head's office is full of things that are just not really relevant to department operations. You go, what kind of time is being used here? And what's being done with that time? I just think that having an awareness of that tends to go a long way when there are those issues. And then the second thing is being honest and having integrity. There's an old phrase that goes, if you mess up, fess up, and if you don't know, say so. I've found that the consequences of making things up on the fly or just telling us what you think you want to hear, we want to hear, to carry, those tend to carry greater consequences than just letting us know that you're going to have to look into something more, or that something either did or did not occur that should have happened differently. So those would be my two main things.
Thank you.
All right, well, we are getting towards the close. We've got about 5 minutes left. And so if you would like to spend a few minutes, maybe kind of wrapping up, or any additional comments that you'd like to close with to the council, then you are welcome to do so.
Sure. I guess there's a few things I didn't really touch on because they weren't relevant necessarily to the questions that you brought up in some of your responses. I've had a lot of experiences working with capital programs and strategies at getting capital projects across the finish line, bringing different funding streams together, whether they're bond referendums or grant funding or other strategies. So I do have experience with that as well. And also one thing that I currently do with my team, I have many team, once a year, I spend in 2 to 3 hours with every single team. And I think that's speaking to some of the comments that you made. In that way, I have found it very successful to build relationships with the staff so that they trust that I know what they need, that I understand their work. And it's been very effective at building those relationships with the team members. And that's 190 people, but I spend a couple hours. I also meet with every single person who starts with the city in my line of business, so that I can give my elevator pitch on how we like to work together and creative problem solving, all those high performing organization concepts. Here's the framework we're working within. This is the strategic, plan, the vision. I want you to, work, you're closest to the work. And I believe that you have the most valuable knowledge on how you can achieve that. So I support that. So be creative in how you're delivering services. As long as you're meeting the legal framework and you understand our strategic framework, you should know how to make the right decisions. So I think that given what you've said, I really feel confident that I could add a lot of value to Snoqualmie. So if there's anything that you need to help aid in your decision, please let me know.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I know on behalf of the whole council, they appreciate your time and your responses. So thank you very much for your time. And we're done.
Right, thanks.
Rob Watton, nice to meet you.
I'm sneaking around back. Sorry about it.
Hello, Mr. Kim. How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you
Hi,
too.
Andre Tesla. You too.
Good seeing you again, man. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good.
Great.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yep.
No,
Hi.
much too loud.
I'll try to be softer.
Oh, now too quiet. Welcome. Thanks for coming to spend the time with the council tonight. So we're going to spend about an hour with you, or the council is going to spend actually exactly an hour with you. We've got a timer. We'll keep track of it over here. I'll let you know if during the questions and answers, if you're starting to get short on time and you might want to condense your answers, I'll let you know. But if you don't see anything from me, you don't need to worry about that.
Or I mean, just talk faster.
There's that. But they're going to go through, the council members are going to go through and ask you questions in successive order. And they'll just sort of take turns passing that off. We do have 2 of the council members that are attending by Zoom. And so I will usually, you'll be able to see them when they speak.
Oh, okay.
But they can see you right now. So so when it's their turn in this question sequence, I'll call on them just to make sure know that it's time.
All right,
But
thank you.
other than that, welcome and thank you for being here. And with that, we will start.
Right.
The first thing that they would like to hear from you is maybe take a few minutes and give them kind of an overview of who you are, your background, and kind of tune them into you.
All right. So I'll allot my time accordingly. I'm from Seoul, South Korea. I came to America when I was 10 years old. English was a very difficult language for me to learn. In Korean language, there's no tense, there's no plurals, there's no gender, and so forth. So I had to figure all that out. And then at Centralia High School, where I graduated from, I took German, which is even more difficult language. There's der, die, das, and then anyway. So I try to be multilingual, but English became my first language, became my language when I started dreaming in English. So there are still some English words I cannot pronounce, which I'm not going to tell you. But in Korea, my parents are very traditional, regimented. Children should be seen and not heard, and so forth. Very much a disciplinarian family, and Korean culture is kind of like that back then. I came to America. My 4th grade teacher allowed me to just blossom, and it was great. I said, wow, where I get punished for asking hard questions, and I still ask very hard questions. I got punished in Korea because it was disrespectful. In America, I actually got rewarded. Teachers started giving me A's. So I thought, wow, what a great nation. So I took full advantage of that. Sometimes I think I'm more American than native-born Americans because I have such an appreciation of the difference. I joined the U.S. Navy after graduating from University of Washington. I'm a chemical engineer. Served for 5 years in the Navy. It was command and control, and I got tired of getting yelled at and screaming at my men and so forth, because I think we all as humans deserve a little better than that. I can see when, missiles incoming, perhaps you need to scream out, fire now, right? Kind of so that we don't all get killed. But there's rarely situations like that. So I got out of the Navy, got my MBA, joined Hewlett Packard Company as a programmer analyst, as a software guy. And I learned a whole new way of living, leading, and working. The HP way with the management by wandering around, open door policy, 360-degree evaluation, skip level meetings. It was just a hallmark upon which the Silicon Valley was built. When I read Google's HR practices, I thought, they just stole this from HP. It's just straight out. They just got better examples and so forth. How do I know? Because
worked in IT field in Santa Clara County, which is middle of the Silicon Valley. And it was really neat when you can walk to Facebook, walk to Google, and they're just right there. So when the pandemic hit, I thought the world was going to end. So I came back to Northwest, became a chief information officer for Washington County, second largest county in the state of Oregon in Hillsborough. They call it the Silicon Forest. I went from Silicon Valley to Silicon Forest. Really, really enjoyed that. But I was department head. Department head about 98 people in Washington County. And I thought, I could do so much more because as a technologist, everything runs on technology. And I got to see everything and anything. People would confide in us. People would want us to throw technology and computers at problems when we know that's the last thing you want to do. You want to fix the process. You want to get use the Lean Six Sigma methodology. You want to make sure that you're delivering value, not defects, faster. And therefore, I desire to do more. And so I basically started seeking leadership role where I could have the entire organization. So Grace Harbor County gave me that first opportunity because they didn't know any better. I was the first inaugural county administrator in 175 years. I brought all the best practices that I learned throughout my career, servant leadership, being accessible, being the first into the office and the last one to leave, because guess what? I get my work done when nobody's in the office. Otherwise, I'm in constant meetings. Even when my calendar is clear, I'm in constant meetings because people want to talk to me and I want to be accessible. And so I love the job. It's the best job I've ever had. And I want to do more. I want to accelerate the progress. I want to do get the resources and align the organization. One of your first questions here, I probably might have already somewhat touched on it, but I'll stop there so that you can ask the questions.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Murphy, I think you're going to start.
Yeah, so thanks again for being here today with us. Why does Snoqualmie stand out for you compared to other cities that you've considered? And why is this opportunity better than waiting for a different one?
Well, so I've driven by city of Snoqualmie. I've been to the falls, been to North Bend, but I actually didn't even know city of Snoqualmie existed until this opportunity came up. So the more I read about it, I thought, wow, this is a city with incredibly high potential, right? It's still in King County, close to a metropolitan center, and yet it's rural. But there's just so many more resources. And I think we're at the cusp of greatness. And I want to take advantage of that. And I want to ride that wave. And I want to be the catalyst and help city of Snoqualmie achieve their full potential. And I read through your entire budget book, and I read up on all the reports, all the newspaper articles, and a little bit of a history there. And I thought, wow, the community is really engaged. I'm surprised that hardly anybody's here. I thought they would show up for city administrator interviews, right? So I think that there's a lot of trust in the government, which is great. I think people show up when they're mad about something or when they have a lot of concerns and so forth. So, but it can be a two-way street, and I believe that we can get the community engaged a lot more through not just negative things, but also through positive aspects as well. And there's just such high potential here in the people, in the community, in the natural beauty, in the energy that is generated. And I think because we're at such a crossroad here, that we need to take full advantage of that. And so much talent in this community, right? Anyway, I'll stop there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Sam, question 2. How will you align your work with the mayor's vision while ensuring the council remains fully informed and engaged?
Right. Well, I made the mistake of reading the budget book, which has the previous mayor's vision, previous council's vision, previous regime's vision, evidently. However, I think, it's a good place to start and start modifying it, so forth. So I'll work with the mayor and make sure that at least some parts of it, whether it's a vision, mission, values, or priorities and so forth, not all of it needs to change. I believe that human beings are incremental creatures. And so I think by making smaller changes, we can accept big changes at the end. I want to see what needs to change. What is different? So first of all, I want to know what the mayor's vision. What is his mission? Now, what are the values? What's the city council's vision mission? You have a couple of retreat days coming up, and I know it's about the budget, but I'm sure there'll be other things you guys might want to talk about. So I would love to be a fly on a wall and listen to that. I want to just hear from all of you as well. So I will work with the mayor on a daily basis. Want to make sure that I'm on the right track, that we're all synchronized, that we don't surprise each other. And I will be meeting with each individual council members on regular basis as well, so that everybody gets the same information. There's no surprises. And then I want to learn what your individual hopes and dreams are as well. Maybe for the city, maybe for your position, maybe for your career, whatever it is. I'd be taking personal interest in what you would like to accomplish as a city councilor, as a member of this community. So it's just communication. It's just making sure that we all talk and that we have the expectations. And then I'm going to come back and check, make sure that nothing's changed, that things are working. If things are not working, let me know. But because of my experience, I will also have some feedback, what has worked in other places. It'll be up to the mayor and the city council ultimately to decide by voting. And for me, the democratic process is sacred. Meaning that once there's a vote and there's a decision, that's the will of the people as represented by the city council. I will work with the staff to make sure we execute to that, right? The debate is over, and we make sure that the will of the council and the mayor gets to be translated into actions and results. And so we'll look at what the OKRs are and what the KPIs are, and then deliver to that, and then make sure that we are measuring the right things and making good progress.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, question number 3. Why should the community trust you to represent its interests and values?
Well, I personally will listen and will go out and so forth. However, it is more of the trust of the city council and the mayor because you represent the will of the people, right? I think the trust is more in, are they going to trust me as a city administrator to execute the will of the people, as represented by you? So I think it's important that the city council members, the mayors, be out in the community and talk to the constituents and make sure that you have your ears to the ground. And, instead of just talking to folks where you live, I'm going to encourage all of you to get out to the rest of the community. Go to areas that there may be opposition, you're going into a hostile crowd. I'm going to actually encourage that. So I will be right there. I'll be working with you, working with the mayor to ensure that the staff, through me, provide factual information as well as subject matter expert knowledge and our wisdom that we bring to the table as well. Because we're not just going to spew out data. We're also going to say, hey, these are the trade-offs. These are the options. And here's our recommendations. But any of these will work. Some will work better than others and so forth. So those are the choices. I'm an engineer by degree. And I use the trade-off curves, right? There's not always just one solution. There's multiple ways to do the same thing. Some better than others. But depending on what the objectives are, different solutions may work better. So I want to make sure that the community is engaged in that. So it's all about communication and being out there, trying to get people to participate in these kind of things. It's like pulling teeth. However, if you show up at their HOA meetings, at the service club meetings, I'm a Rotarian myself, and be part of the community right? That's why you're here, right? Because you represent the community. And I'll be a co-pilot, if you will.
All right, Councilmember Washington, I think you're next.
Yes, I have the fourth question. What is one change you've implemented in a previous role that had lasting positive impact on the community?
I think producing a budget book that's understandable with narratives and having it balanced. I wish I had brought it here, but we forever produced budget book that was nothing but tables and numbers, no graphs, no color, no explanation. Nobody could understand it. Even I couldn't understand it, right? So I said, no, we're not going to do this. Just because we've done it always, we just printed the minimum required through the state bars manual, all these hodgepodge of numbers. Nobody in the community understands it. Who's the budget book for, if not for the community? Is it for staff? Well, as it turned out, it evidently was. I said, no, we're going to change that game. So I wouldn't say forced, I strongly encouraged every department, every separate elected official, the sheriff's office, the assessor, the auditor, and all my department heads to write something about their department, write what their priorities are. And one elected official used that moment to actually print out a diatribe of how horrible his budget was. And we printed it verbatim, right? You go, well, I didn't mean for you to print that. Well, what do you think a budget book is? Well, nobody reads the budget book. They read this one because it's understandable. I was at a community meeting at Ocean Shores and presented the budget book. And they said, oh, thank you, Sam. For the first time, I know what your departments do. For the first time, I knew what these numbers meant. For the first time, I understand that we've been operating in deficit. And for the first time that we had a balanced budget. That was huge. Now, your budget book is actually better because there's quite a bit more explanation, narratives and so forth. It's something to emulate. So great job on that. However, in Grace Harbor County, it was a monumental step. They have never seen anything else before. So a lot of simple things, just best practices. I didn't invent any of these things. I learned it along the way. Can just go a long ways. People think it was magic, transformational. No, I just knew what worked, what didn't work.
All right, thank you. Question number 5. How do you effectively lead departments such as police and fire when you're not a technical expert in those fields?
Well, you're in luck. I happen to be a commissioned reserve deputy in Clark County. And I also, as a U.S. Navy officer, all shipboard sailors, officers included, were required to take firefighting training. That was because during the Vietnam War, there was a fire on USS Forrestal, and the firefighting team got wiped out when they rushed in and the ordnance exploded and killed them all. There was nobody left to fight the fires. So they said every sailor, officers, doesn't matter, is a firefighter. So I learned firefighting. Now, I didn't make a career of it, and reserve deputy was a part-time thing. But so I know a little bit about each of these areas to be dangerous. I know quite a bit about IT. So I can wear that hat really, really easily. But as I indicated earlier, I want to get away from being the subject matter expert in any technical field and becoming more of a strategist and overall providing the guidance and making everything fit together. I think that's my role, and it has worked really well. I do not want to play in the sandbox of the subject matter experts who we have paid, hired to be able to provide that. If they're unable to do that, I want to know that. I want to know what help they need and provide that knowledge and expertise, whether it's a consultant, whether it's me, or whether it's somebody else, or whether it's from you, because we have a lot of talent up here as well, right? But I would stay away from any council member, the mayor, or myself playing in their sandbox if at all possible, right? It's more of a guidance. It's more of setting that strategic direction. But here's what I tell, I've been a project manager for most of my career. Here's what I tell some new project managers. You don't have to be the technical expert of all the resources you need to make this project successful. You just have to know enough to be able to call BS when they try to tell you something that's not right. You got to have that smell test ability. And I think that's where I come in. I can smell something when I'm being told something that's maybe manipulating or maybe being biased or guided in a certain direction, right? Because we tend to be, as we become experts in certain areas, we tend to want people to kind of move in that direction. I don't want to say we become master manipulators, but we do try to become influencers in the agenda that I want. We have to stay as staff, we have to stay neutral. And we have to be able to provide the decision makers, such as yourselves, with all of the options. What are the trade-offs? What works? What doesn't work? What do we recommend in this particular case? But here's other things that you may wish to consider. That's what subject matter experts do, instead of saying, this is the only way. If they tell me that, I'm going to challenge that. I'm going to ask a lot of hard questions. Because again, I believe in a trade-off curve. And I want to make sure that we have considered all options, especially if it's a very difficult, expensive, and long-term impact.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Could you please describe your experience in strategic planning activities in previous leadership roles? What ensures that a plan is meaningful versus just a document that sits on the shelf?
Yeah, this is probably the most important question because I make all my decisions based upon the strategic plan. I actually carry the county strategic plan in my pocket because I want to look at the mission, vision, values, the goals, the strategies, objectives, and what the metrics are, the OKRs and KPIs. And the reason why I do that is because I don't know everything. I can't have my hand in everything, right? I have to rely on the SMEs. But when something is being proposed, either by the city council, by the mayor, or by other elected officials, or by my staff, I need to find out if it fits within our strategic plan. If it doesn't, I'm not going to say no. I'm going to say, first of all, try to understand why they think this should be considered outside of the strategic plan, number one. But number two, does our strategic plan need to be then adjusted? I frequently find that people get really excited after they come back from a conference. They saw a shiny new toy and it's got to be implemented right away, right? So I try to get people away from a shiny new toy syndrome and try to make sure that we're not reacting and responding to every possible feedback and every possible pitch we hear, because we will hear a lot of that. When you're in a position of authority, people will want to sell you stuff, right? Whether it's staff or whether it's vendor or somebody else. Yeah, it'd be good to learn and figure it out. But there's sources that are more neutral that can really help us. And that could be our own subject matter experts, or it could be an IT or a Gartner, or it could be some other. I happen to read Consumer Reports a lot because it's, mostly unbiased. Then there's other industry reports that are similar to that we can also reference. We can also call up other municipalities, other cities and so forth. So when it comes to strategic planning, I want to make sure that it is workable, that everybody has bought into it, that it is our strategic plan, not my strategic plan, and that we are able to understand what the expectations are. And so just by me demonstrating that I use it every day, I have found that my department heads and others will also use it every day because they know what questions I'm going to ask.
Yeah, it's on me, right? Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. How do you ensure decisions remain transparent and defensible in a small community where, quote unquote, everyone knows everyone?
Not only does everyone knows everyone, everyone's related to everyone else. And it just seems that, because I come from Centralia and I'm in Grace Harbor County. I know small community and there are no secrets. So even if you try to be not transparent, they're going to find out. So might as well be upfront, right? So it's just a matter of time. And so I think we need to be able to be consistent in what we say. And that's again where the strategic plan comes in. We need to sing from the same song sheet. And we can't, after there's a council vote, It may be a split vote. We can't have people go out there and say the opposite things. How many times have you been in a meeting where we all thought we heard the same thing, we made the same decisions, they go out and people say the opposite things to their staff, to somebody else? It happens a lot, believe it or not. So I think it's checking to make sure that we're all synchronized, that we all know what we're going to say to everybody else. What are you going to do back at the ranch, right? Need to have that check because it's very easy for things to go awry. And what you may think is you're transparent, you're communicating and so forth, you may be doing that, but it's the wrong message. So I think in terms of communicating, being transparent, working in a small community, you have to make sure that we're all saying the same thing. Because if we don't, then it looks like we're not being transparent, that there's some sort of conspiracy going on, right? Well, I heard this, but the other person said that. So what's up with that, right? So I think it's not just saying what's on your mind, it's staying on message. And I think that's going to be important. That will help the trust build, and that'll help the transparency, and that'll help with the communication. Are we
all
okay
right.
for time?
You're doing fine. You got about 35 minutes left, so you're doing just fine.
Oh, we'll have a chance to ask. Oh, yeah, there's questions. Okay, yes.
Tell us about a situation where political pressure challenged your professional judgment.
Well, that happens every day with 12 separately elected officials plus 3 county commissioners. They all want separate things and they're not accountable to each other. They're only accountable to the voters. So, a county environment, every day, it's a political pressure, one way or the other. And so you have to navigate that. Again, this is where the strategic plan comes in. Even though we may have no authority over the separately elected officials, by having agreed to a strategic plan, to the mission, vision, values, we can say, well, is what you want to do politically in line with our strategic plan? A strategic plan isn't just about getting things done. It's also about how we behave, the values. How are we going to treat each other? What's the relationship? In my opinion, and I can tell you this, delivering results, that's the easy part. Not leaving dead bodies along the way, that's the hard part, right? So the relationship building, that's the hard part. Remember, I'm an engineer, right? I thought the world's problems can be solved through technology. I was so wrong. 80 to 90% of my problems are not technology or process or product issues. They are people issues. And that's just in an IT world. Can you imagine in the regular world, in the civilian world where it's not technology oriented? It's probably like 95% of the issues are people. When there's a budget shortfall, I can almost guarantee you, when you ask the 5 whys, when you get to the root cause, it's people issue. When there was an error, it was a people issue. Let me give you a technology example since I have some time here. One of the IT folks came to me and said, the darndest thing happened. We had a double power failure on our Cisco router. So the entire network went down. I go, double power failure? That's like one in a trillion chance. So how could that happen? Cisco's a great company. That's why they have redundant power. The chance of both of them going down at the same time is minuscule. Ain't gonna happen in anybody's lifetime, right? But the fact that it happened, I thought, okay, let me look at your logs. And as it turned out, a year ago, there was a single power failure. But because the second power unit was still up, it kept it up. Well, then guess what? The other power unit failed. And so now it seems like a double power failure. But when you look at the logs, they failed singly. They didn't fail together at the same time, which is almost impossible. So whenever whenever somebody tells me something, I just try to check the facts. So when the political pressure comes in, when the relationship issues come in, I just learn to ask a lot of good questions. And, is it aligned to our strategic plan? Because people will give you political pressure, not just from the community, but from your staff as well. because we have all our biases, we have all our hopes and ambitions. And, we need to be able to make sure that we are being as truthful and as factual as possible. Okay, I kind of went sideways a little bit on that one, but thank you for your indulgence.
Thanks.
Great. Sam, we're up to question 9. Why do you think you're well suited to the challenges and breadth of responsibility in a small city? And what would you need to be successful?
So, small city, small town, small community, that's what I'm used to. I have worked in Santa Clara County, which is huge, in San Jose. I can tell you this, when people don't know each other, when everybody's a stranger, the dynamics, relationships, they change. You may think that may be a better thing. I haven't been in a small town, but my preference is to be a small town where everybody knows everybody. There's no secrets, and eventually things will get found out. So might as well be totally upfront to begin with. So I'm versed in small town dynamics, even the politics. I was on the school board for Battleground School District for 16 years. And as an elected official, I know what it's like to sit up there, right? I felt, I don't know if you feel this, I felt that even though I was the president of the school board, right? Big title, gavel, right? I felt like I had no power because I had to rely on other school board members to get anything done. And I couldn't talk to them except one at a time because there was 5 of us, right? I can't talk to 2 others, right? And so I think because of my experience, my knowledge, basically there is no problem you can throw at me that I have not seen before. So I won't have just one possible solution. I'll have multiple ways to solve this problem. And I'm going to recommend the most optimal one for this particular situation. And so nothing surprises me anymore. But boy, do I learn a lot when I talk to people about their history, about where they come from, what their hopes and desires are. To me, that connection, that relationship is meaningful to me. And that fits with my vision, my mission statement. And it's in my letter here, which is to help others be fearlessly inquisitive, kind and compassionate while performing their very best and leading fulfilling and meaningful lives. Since I have a little more time here, I don't say happiness. And the reason why is because happiness can be fleeting, but meaning, fulfillment, that stays. I give an example of climbing Mount St. Helens. I climbed that 6 times after it blew its top off. It is spectacular. It's miserable climbing that thing. It's even worse coming down. You get blisters and everything else. So I'm not happy, but boy, am I satisfied. And so I think that's where we should be at. I'm not here for every moment of bliss. I'm here for meaning and the fulfillment and then building the relationship, which is so important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 10. Tell us what you'd like to have your first 100 days look like.
Well, so I made a list because this is very important. I'm going to have one-on-ones with all of you, and that'll be the beginning of the regular meetings. My goal is within the first 100 days to be able to have talked to every leader within the staff. So every department head, every manager, every supervisor, every lead, I want to have talked to them. And basically, I'll just ask very simple questions like, what's working here? What's not working here? What are your expectations of me? And what do you think of your boss? So I want to know. I want to know what I have. So by these discussions, I'm going to build a SWOT chart, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And there's going to be a consensus. There's going to be a pattern. And that'll be for me anyway, founding of what the next strategic plan would look like. And, if they disagree, if any of you or anybody else disagree with my SWOT analysis, let's add more, right? Let's change it. Let's work on it, right? But I find that even people from very diverse background, working together in a small community like this, we tend to reach consensus pretty quickly. And so within the first 100 days, I want to set this cadence of not just meeting with you and the mayor and the department heads, but I also want to be able to do skip level meetings, meaning that individual contributors, without their managers or supervisors or directors, I will meet with them alone. And if there are any leaders there, they can't be there. So it's amazing what they will tell you when the leaders are not present. And I'm a leader, right? But confidentiality, right? And I take notes. And I'll have regular meetings with the skip level meeting as well. And then I'm going to want to know, what do I have? What are the resources we have? Do we have high potentials? Do we have people that are just coasting and just wanting to ride out to retirement? And that's okay, by the way. And I want to be able to get where people are at and take full advantage of where they want to be. And unfortunately, do we have any deadwoods? And I want to know that too. And so I will embark on a 360-degree performance evaluations. I'm sure you guys have been doing them because Kim is just awesome. So I want to read everybody's performance evaluation. And I'm going to want to start rating them. And I'm sure you do that here as well. Are they meeting expectations? Are they exceeding expectations? Or are they not meeting expectations? I want to know that. Everybody could be rated at the top, everybody could be rated at the bottom, or everybody could be in the middle. It's not our ranking. I come from Silicon Valley where everybody was ranked from top to bottom, right? And you don't want to be that bottom 10% because you're next candidate for layoff. So I don't want, this is not that exercise. This is an exercise of what talents do we have? Which one, who do we want to encourage? Who's ambitious? And so I want to make sure that we are taking full advantage of the potential of the human resources we have here. The reason why I keep talking about this is because we achieve everything through our staff. There's no other way. There really isn't. And we need their buy-in, but we also need to make sure they're valued and that we are fully harvesting what they have to bring to the table. I can tell you this, having been in government for a while, there will be hidden gems. And people will all of a sudden start sharing something that we never knew about that we could probably take advantage of here in this city. So that's the synopsis of my first 100 days. It'll be busy.
All right, Councilmember Washington, I think you have the next question.
Yes. Question number 11. Can you please speak to work you've done to foster intercity partnerships in spite of fiscal constraints?
That's an interesting question because of the fiscal constraint, we should have collaboration. We should have intercity partnership. It's so that we can leverage each other's strengths and be able to do things more efficiently at lower cost that we couldn't do alone. So I was sorry to hear that the city of North Bend is no longer using our police force. I believe that together we can provide a sense of community. And so to me, intercity partnership is really important. It's all about trust and relationship and working together. As a county, we have what's called Council of Governments. I'm sure they have something here as well. To me, that's to be leveraged. I'm sure there's a mayor's meeting as well. That's got to be leveraged. I'm sure there's a city administrators meeting as well. We have all those in the counties I have worked in, and that should be nurtured and used as not just a monthly get-together, but to really harness what we can do together. Right. When we look at the battery energy storage system, right, we got surprised, and not being aware, right. And so this is where, by talking to other cities and talking to the county and talking to the state, even to the federal government, find out what's really going on. Not all of us can pay attention to everything all at the same time, but some of us may, and they can send out the alerts. So I think this is where trust and partnership and collaboration really can make the day. So this intercity partnership is absolutely critical because of fiscal constraints. And the fact that fiscal constraint is used here is interesting. I have worked for very rich municipalities and I work for very poor municipalities. They all have fiscal constraints. It is not about revenue. It is about how you spend. It's about expenditures and your priorities. We cannot do everything all at once. We can do some of the things now. And I'm a project manager for most of my career. And I'll give you an example. When I joined Clark County, we had 200 projects all going at the same time. Impossible to do, even with a 100% person IT shop. So I said, no, we're not going to work on 200 projects. Look at your tickets. They are 10 years old tickets. Oh, we have to keep that 10-year-old ticket open. Why? Because we may get to it someday. No, you're going to kill that ticket. We're going to kill all of these projects except for the top 5. Okay, if you twist my arm, maybe the top 10. So we did that. We actually knocked out more projects than ever before. And within 2 years, we actually got them all done, which was record time. So sometimes just slowing down, looking at the priorities, you can work on the most important, most urgent, the most critical parts first. You'll get more done that way because then you built that infrastructure for other things to now build on, and things just accelerate and it's so much faster. So partnership and the fiscal constraint, these are tools, not threats and not weaknesses. We should leverage what we have to motivate us to be more efficient and use our resource more wisely. I'm sorry that this is late evening for you.
Oh, we've gotten you, this is an early evening for us. At least lately. Thank you for your answers to those questions. The council would now like to hear from you.
Yes.
If you have a question for them about the role, the organization, or current priorities.
Okay, how much time do I have?
Well, it's about 20 minutes, but you may find that goes quickly because many of them may answer your questions. So it may chew up some time. So
all right, so let's
pick your questions carefully.
Let's go with the very, very top of mind question here. So I mentioned that you have a retreat tomorrow and Saturday to talk about the budget. If you are not limited to that one single topic, because it's a special meeting, so you can only talk about that, right? But if you weren't limited to that single topic, what are your other top topics that you would like to bring up for discussion amongst your seatmates?
So I can start with that. I think when I think of the other topics, I think of what's top of mind for our residents. And there are two that do come to mind. I think obviously a lot of discussion in the community around battery energy storage systems, the proposal in unincorporated King County, how that impacts the city and our residents. Lots of community engagement on that subject matter. So it's certainly something that we have to discuss, and it's something that the residents are deeply, deeply concerned about. So the other issue relates to economic development and vitality in the city of Snoqualmie with respect to our small businesses, our retail corridors, and how we can ensure economic vitality for the long term. So we've had issues with vacancies, and obviously our area faces some economic headwinds with respect to employment among the tech sector that is certainly starting to kind of seep into our area. And how we can think about minimizing our retail leakage, right? So looking at ensuring how we can see to it that more of our residents or visitors are spending money within our retail corridors, and how we can use that to diversify and grow our tax base. So those are two issues that obviously are tangential to the budget, but those that I think our residents are thinking a lot about right now.
Well, thank you for that.
For me, it's going to be public safety is a big issue because I chair public safety. And it goes to, all the keeping the services that we have intact as we're a full service city that it's kind of an anomaly that we own all that, and making sure that we contain, we can continue on that. Secondly, it would be affordable housing. We have 80% of our workforce that lives outside the city. If we can find a way to make workforce housing more attainable, it will help our local economy by keeping the money here, what they earn. But the challenge is dealing with the state that is at a disconnect because their priorities are different than what our needs are. And so we need to have greater advocacy there. And then the other area is economic development. And we're one of the most highly educated communities in Washington State. We're very blessed by that. But it also means that recently a lot of people have been displaced, and that's been part of the thing that we've been working through with the my nonprofit, Snow Valley Innovation Center, that started right here in City Hall through the Economic Development Commission. But making sure that we give the resources to small businesses as a job creator and an opportunity to hold more people within our city with their businesses.
Thank you for that.
So near current present, it's the best facility discussion, economic development for more balanced revenue streams, partnerships, both between municipalities and other, Skyview Park District, the tribe, Sound City Association, all of those, how we better leverage those things. I do want us eventually to get back into what is the council's goals and objectives so that we can start to focus our efforts in on things and everything else they said. I'll let you. Thank you so
Councilman
much.
Washington, did you have any comment?
Yeah, I'll add something. So I think it's two-pronged for me. I'll answer this kind of top level. I think the first is more of operationally. When I think about these, retreats, I think about, okay, what are lessons learned? So what are some things that we did well? How do we do them? And then, what are some development opportunities and things that we didn't do well? What approach did we take? What different approaches can we take in the future? So I think those are really big pull throughs. I think the other strategic piece would be, and I think I heard Councilmember Murphy kind of mention this, community engagement. I think that we can definitely do a better job as a council engaging the community, and what are some opportunities to do that, to meet our community where they are, and just hear the voices in the community and making sure that that's filtering through the council.
Thank you.
So certainly I would echo every single thing that my fellow council members have said. And then I would like to get more into, as you were talking about, the relationship building, and whether that be with the council, with administration, with our residents. We have to reestablish the trust and the transparency, and the best way we can do that is open communication. And I really would like to see, yes, the community be more involved than just when there's a hot topic that comes up. And then you see everybody in the chambers are packed, which is great, because alluding to what the other council members have said, our community is very highly educated. They are some better researched than we are on some topics that, and we learn a lot from them. And so appreciating the talents that we have out in the community is, I would always encourage more involvement with our city committees and commissions and things like that too. So whatever we can do to engage our residents, and also keep our, staff lines of communication open as well. and not micromanaging and things along that line. So,
Thank you.
you.
Yeah, I won't belabor the previous points made. I think you can probably see there's consistency in those points, where I think this council's shares pretty much all of the same areas of focus. The only thing I would add is, you started out your comments by saying we're a great city. Snoqualmie is a great city, and yet it still has not achieved its full potential. We're at, I think you said we're at the cusp of greatness, right? And I agree with you. And a key focus of mine, again, you heard it from the others, is economic development. Obviously we have tremendous potential still left to achieve when it comes to tourism, right? And that carries over into all the other things we're trying to achieve. And that's one reason behind the regional or intercity cooperations question. So that's definitely a focus area.
Okay, thank you.
All right, then the only other thing that I wanted to emphasize that has been a major topic amongst the council is the housing affordability and housing diversity discussion. As we go into finally at long last zoning the Ridge this year, that presents an opportunity for us to think about kind of that 20-year plan. What do we have to do now so that 20 years from now, the city looks the way that people will wish that we had acted now, such that that could be the case when that time comes.
All right, we have time for one other question, but council members, you will have to curtail your comments. There's not enough time for you to all answer this time around. Or what'll happen is you'll get cut off midway and some won't get to answer at all. So we've got about 5 minutes for them to answer your questions. So what other question would you like to ask?
A very simple one. What are your hopes and dreams and expectations of the new city administrator?
So I'll be quick to provide world-class leadership and for the rest of King County to look at Snoqualmie as the standard bearer for city management.
Consistency across the board.
I'll let the rest speak.
Councilmember Washington, do you have a comment?
Real quickly, to lead with integrity.
I echo that sentiment and the other sentiments. And I just think keeping open lines of communication and, kind of not being afraid to, listen to what others are saying and, not rushing to judgment or doing any kind of knee-jerk reaction to situations that they arise without, thorough investigation.
Thank you.
Brilliance of the basics when it comes to delivering city services through the leadership of the staff, taking care of them through their development and public facing, or not even public facing, but public centered approach to municipal management.
Thank you.
I would say honesty and integrity. There's an old phrase that says, if you mess up, fess up, and if you don't know, say so. What I found is that the consequences of making things up on the fly or telling us what you think that we want to hear tend to carry greater consequences than just letting us know that you have to look into something or that something occurred or didn't occur that would have been better having happened differently.
Thank you.
Okay, well, they went way quicker than I thought they would. If you can do one more question, but we'll need to keep the answers about the length you have.
This one's really simple. I watched your council meetings where you were interviewing like 10 candidates for position number 6, I believe. And then you interviewed one person. And then I asked him, did they make a decision at the last meeting? And the answer was, don't know or no. And yet here you are.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So the question I was going to ask was, what traits are you looking for in your seatmate? But obviously you found out and you made the decision. So
Well,
I imagine they're consistent with what you just told me about what you expect from a city administrator.
good looks was, I think, the primary one.
Then you're going to say a sense of humor.
Scale.
Thank you so much. It's been a joy.
Okay, actually, what we did hold back is enough time for you to kind of do a closing.
I don't have to
But
move.
I'm sorry, they're still laughing at the notion that a certain council member is so handsome. They seem to find that amusing. No, we do have some time for you to go ahead and do a closing. If there's anything that you would like to sort of mention that didn't really get touched on, now's a chance. Anything you want to reemphasize, now's a chance.
Well, this is kind of the fun part for me. Thank you so much. Yeah. So glad I came prepared. First of all, Councilmember Murphy, you have twin daughters. I have twin sons. And after having twin boys, we decided not to have any more children. They killed us. I don't know if you're the same.
Empathize, yes. We followed the same path.
Thank you for sharing that. Councilmember Wooten, you probably know Grace Harbor County, you being from Shelton.
A little bit, yes.
Little bit. We are like twin counties.
Yes.
There's so much similarity, so much same culture, small community. The only difference is that Shelton is the only city in the Mason County, whereas we have like 8 other cities that we work with. So we are envious of Mason County and City of Shelton. We have lots of friends there. We do cooperative agreements between Mason County and Grace Harbor County. So, you know, I'd be curious finding out when we do our one-on-ones, what brought you to Snoqualmie? I'm sure there's a story. Yes. Shelton's pretty small. Okay. Councilmember Holloway, you are a project manager. And I've been a project manager most of my career. So as a project manager, we pay attention to scope, schedule, resources, and quality, right? But as I indicated earlier, I have mentored many project managers. I've formed the project management organization, project management office, PMOs. And what I tell my project managers is, because you can't be experts at everything, but we do have to be expert in managing projects, is, yeah, you know, you don't have to be a subject matter expert, but just know enough to not be lied to or blown over, whatever, right? Just know enough to when you need to know the truth, that somebody's not telling you the truth. So I'm sure you can share my sentiments. It is a noble profession. I am PMP certified, but what I have learned is that I hired many great project managers who are not certified, and I hired many horrible project managers who are certified. So certification just gets you in the door. It doesn't mean anything after that. You still have to produce. So thank you for being a fellow project manager. Commissioner Cotton, you're with Emergency Management, Fire District. You're on your 2nd term, and I imagine you're FEMA certified. And I became FEMA certified as well. And it was very interesting. In the Navy, it's not the person with the most stars or most bars that's in command. It's the most capable person. Rank has no meaning when there's an emergency. It's the most knowledgeable person. And I'm glad my FEMA training also says that as well. Uvalde was a huge tragedy because the person with 4 stars didn't know what they were doing and held off everybody because they had less stars than he did. And as a result, so many people got killed. And so, yes, it's the most capable person. You know, forget the number of bars or stars, the rank and so forth. Under emergency condition is whoever can do the job, right? But then shouldn't it be even under normal circumstances, whoever can do the job as well, right? So for me, title, rank, whatever, is just a role. But thank you for focusing on emergency management. I actually have nothing on you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Expected.
Councilmember Johnson, physics teacher. And I have to tell you, physics was my most fun class in high school and in college. But I never want to be a physics major. I'm a chemical engineer because chemical engineer, you focus on chemistry and engineering, and that's it. Simple. Physicist, they have to know everything. They have to know stress, they have to know structures, they have to know quantum, they have to know astrophysics. They have to know everything. And I don't know how they do it. So kudos to you. I admire all physicists out there.
I don't know either.
You didn't have to say that. At least not to your students. Thank you so much for the time.
All right. Thank you for the time. We have come to the end of our hour, but I know on behalf of the whole council, I know they appreciate you taking the time to answer their questions and take this time with them. So thank you. And we are finished.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is executive session. Executive session pursuant to RCW 42.30.1101G to evaluate the qualifications of an applicant for public employment or to review the performance of a public employee. However, subject to RCW 42.30.144, discussion by a governing body of salaries, wages, and other conditions of employment to be generally applied within the agency shall occur in a meeting open to the public. And when a governing body elects to take final action setting the salary of an individual employee or class of employees or discharging or disciplining an employee, that action shall be taken in a meeting open to the public. The executive session will include legal assistant Robert Thrall, council members, and myself. The office of the city clerk will be informed of the concluding time, which will be reflected in the meeting minutes. The anticipated end time of the executive session is 8 p.m. The special meeting will be adjourning directly after the executive session and will not be returning to council chambers.